Yeah, I think probably ought to do that, because we want to hear what you got to say.
All right, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. It's good to be here. I was fortunate to get an opportunity to represent NAP's headquarters. Lewis called me because Brian was actually supposed to be at another convention, and he's getting ready to go on a lasting cruise out in Seattle. And Jay's up in Wisconsin. Louis is in Denver. So Louis called me probably about 3 weeks ago. He said, "Hey, Craig, can you come to the meet and represent headquarters because we needed somebody because we got all these conventions at the same time." And I said, "Well, of course I'd be glad to, but I was coming anyway." But originally I was going to do like I did last year. Spend 2 days here and go to Wisconsin for 2 days because their convention is the same week as the meet. But when given the opportunity, I welcome the opportunity because it's like anything else. You only get better when you step up and, as Herb alluded to, change. It's a difficult thing. It's unexpected. You get a little nervous. You say, what should you or shouldn't you do? Are you ready? Are you not ready? But you can only find out once you step into the arena. So it's been good to sit on the back end and kind of listen a little bit. Fortunate to be here as a delegate from our branch 36 and as the Central Region Vice President and as a representative from NAP's headquarters. But on behalf of those at headquarters, I just wanted to say thanks for all you do as members for the organization at NAP's. And I want to thank Larry as well because Larry makes my job easy. It's kind of like if you that supervisor or that manager and you got a great supervisor, you can go in the office and you look real good as a manager, but your supervisor and your carriers and your clerks will do a good job, make it easy for you. So Larry makes it easy for me because he takes care of a lot of issues, he sends out a lot of information, and he does great training like this. The training is what we need. I know we get a lot of the same faces, we get some new faces, but the only way we get better, get stronger, is collectively be together. It's kind of like the storm, or if you're out in the prairie and there's a storm coming and you look at all the tall grass and it's bending and it's leaning, but it doesn't break because it's all together. But if you look at those few pieces out there by themselves, the wind finally overtakes them and they bend over and they break. So NAP's is only going to be as strong as we are collectively. If together we are together, we can sit here and complain about this, that, but the longer we stay in the fight together, that brings change. You've heard it this week. I got an issue, but what's the same old slogan? Don't mention my name. Don't mention my station, but I want you to fix it for me. And you can't fix it unless you're willing to get in there. And it's like most people say, if you're not willing to step up for yourself and stand up for yourself, what makes you think somebody else is going to do that for you? So together, collectively, we have to stand up and support and represent each other. That's through training like this. Some have asked me about the Central Region training. We're actually in the works. That's going to be November 1st and 2nd. It's going to actually be at the Burr Ridge Marriott in Burr Ridge, Illinois. Now, where's Burr Ridge? I can tell you it's outside of Chicago. Okay, but if you fly into Chicago through Midway, it's about a 15, 20-minute drive from Midway. So not too far from Midtown Chicago. They have a free shuttle service that's provided. So, but if those who are driving is centrally located, so you're not going to the outer suburbs of Chicago, the room rate is going to be actually $122. For those who may want to write that down, we because it kind of helps you with your planning and what you can do for your particular brand. November 1st and 2nd. Last time we had it around Veterans Day. We tried to get that weekend, but unfortunately they had a wedding that Saturday that we were going to have to be out of there about 3:30. So we'd have probably had to start at 7 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, which, after getting Jeff out the hospitality room Friday night, 7 to Saturday probably wouldn't work. So we decided that we, on his behalf, go to the Burr Ridge. But no, it's November 1st and 2nd. It's going to probably start about 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock on the 1st. We met there, Larry, Luz Marino, the Illini Area Vice President, Kevin Trey, the Michiana President, and Neil wasn't able to make it, but we met at the hotel. Pretty nice hotel. It has some shopping that's close for those who get a little time, want to shop. I think it's in walking distance, because I get calls from Jim's wife, Susan. She makes sure that I set up some shopping availability. When we
Thanks,
take
Craig.
Training, so I have to do my part to appease her. But it's a nice little area, but as I alluded to, it will be the 1st and 2nd. Some of the training classes haven't been defined. If you were at the last one, what my mission is to expound upon what we did the last time, but get a little more specific. Because Larry's going to bring up 650, but what we want to do, and a lot of the newer representatives from NAPS, is try to walk you through how to do a representation from the very first time you get a case till you have to move up a particular case. And Nancy Wesley and attorney that helps work through NAPS, Glenn Smith, we're trying to get them to do some role plays and take a case from the first time you have to go in, start to fill out the paperwork, and now the case is denied and you move it up. What do you do next? What's the next paperwork that's involved to keep the case moving? And now they're taking it to the next step, and the appeal's been denied. Where do you go from there? And a lot of people, they get frustrated, they represent people, but the problem that we struggle with in management, because we fail with it, attendance and things at station, is paperwork and documentation. And that's what we lose a lot of times. So we're trying to get those together. Brian's actually trying to work with us to get some templates. Because some of us is writing up where we want it to be, what to say, how to say it, when to say it. So what we're trying to do is even get some templates together to where you can insert the employee's names and information when it's an involuntary reassignment, a letter of warning, that you now can just insert some generic information or the specific information of the person and put that information in there to now send it forward to the person that you're trying to get a resolve on a particular issue. So if you have some particular subjects that you want to see specifically, get with me or get with Larry, and we'll make sure that we try to get those. My mission is we know we have people from the plant, we have people from support, we have people from customer service, we have retirees. Well, the benefit is we have to get something that's going to benefit everybody. And what we're looking to do is have an all-day session on Friday. It's a general session, and then on Saturday we will have breakout classes. Hopefully those classes that we have going on through the morning, we will reduplicate some of those classes in the evening. So in the morning I may want to take some 650, and in the evening I may want to take some e-career training. Now the big push is for everyone to have an IDP, individual development plan. So if you're looking to move up, know people that want to move up, that might be something that's a benefit to you. And for those that's always looking, you should always have your e-career ready to go and just switch and punch the ticket and change a few things. I know most of you have been here, and I sent out an email, and after I sent it, I noticed I really wasn't supposed to send it, but it's kind of hard to recall what you sent, so unfortunately you got it. But there's some positions that APW is looking at. We know that. So I mean, I know it was a supposed to be somewhat kept on the down low. But the difference that I tell people, and I talk to a few people about those, is understand when those positions on that list, it's kind of like Kelly talked about the post plan, the duos, and the 2 hours of this. They're not on there because that's where they want to leave them. They're on there because they're going to act on those positions. So either you have to be proactive and protect your position, or you have to be proactive and start preparing yourself to see where you want to go and where am I going to make that change and get out of my box and get uncomfortable and get to something to do. So that's where you have to start to prepare and make those decisions yourself, because a lot of times where we struggle is I'm the manager and I'm busy. I'm running the floor, I'm splitting up, I got the supervisor here and there, and what do I say? Hey, clerk, can you go count the hot cakes for me? Now I get busy and I'm doing something else. Hey, can you go get that for me? And what we're doing is what? We're giving away our work. And then what does APWU go back? They go to talk to their clerks and they say, we count the mail every morning because the supervisor doesn't come in at 6:30 or 7. And we put the mail in, we count it, we take it out, we put it at the carrier's case ledge for them. We count the coverages that come in. We just put all the reports on the supervisor's desk. I run all the reports for them. We teach them, hey, go in the door, and you run this report, that report, and we think, oh, boy, I got it easy. I can get everything done now because they've done that for me. And what we say is, we don't really need to do that work. That should be craft work. And it's kind of like Simon talked about it, and you hear a lot of people talk about it. Take the time for the work that you do. A lot of us say, I'm here 10, 12 hours. They don't want to pay me. Okay, they don't want to pay me. That's fine. But what you need to do is now send a message to the boss, hey, look, it's almost 4 o'clock time for me to go. I'm not going to be able to get X, Y, Z done in time. What is important that you want me to get done before I leave, or do you want me to stay? They say go home at 8. You've informed her that I couldn't complete all of my daily assignment tasks that day. Well, a lot of times we say what? It's 4 o'clock, goodbye, and we walk out. And then tomorrow, when the report didn't get done, we say, why they picking on me? They sent me home, they didn't tell me to stay. They want me to stay, they want me to get all that done and they got. We have to speak up for ourselves. It's the squeaking wheel story. If we stand together and we stay strong together, they won't pick us out. But it's kind of like former postmaster of mine in Kansas City. He told me a story once, and he said, you know, if you go to Africa and you see the lions out in the wilderness, and you see them as they approach a herd of animals, and you look at them, and if you've seen a lot of these wildlife stories and animals, they get up the lion and he stops. He lays down in the grass for a minute, and he just looks and he surveys the herd. Now, can the lion get them all?
Nope.
He knows he can't. But he knows what? Out of the crowd, I can get the weakest one. There's one alluded to. So what do? They wait. I sit there for a minute and I get my rest, and now I'm ready to go. And that's what the post office does. They sit and they wait. Which station is it? I'm not going to be able to get all of them. I'm not going to be able to get all the postmen. I'm waiting. Let's see who I can get. Now when I'm ready to move, I move forward, and once the herd starts to move, you see them, they kind of start out slow, like, okay, he's not really coming. Yeah. All of a sudden, they see him picking up pace, and they all do what? Everybody starts running. And guess what? Sooner or later, one, for some reason, gets diverted away from the herd, and the rest of them go there, and the lion says, you may be a little better over there, but we just found the one because he's made himself available for us. And that's what the post office does. If they can attack us and we sit there and we say, I can't make 1,800, so I'm going to do what? I'm going to falsify my tax returns. I'm going to falsify who was in the office and who got out the office. And they say, now I'm going to go after them. And it's just like the line. I got you out there by yourself. And now, oh, we can get you now. But if we stick together, it's a little bit harder to get us. And that's what we have to work towards is now. But we can only do that through training, education, and preparation. So those are some of the things that you know, are important to us. You know, we've heard from Rick, he talked about collect, process, and deliver mail. And I go to a lot of the state conventions, of course, but I really, and not just because he's here to me and Larry, but Larry gets a lot of people from the area and the district. And Larry's well respected in the Western and the Great Lakes areas. I'm working a little bit, I hate to say it, with the Great Lakes area, but Jackie's trying to get a little bit better. I just came from Chicago, actually Tuesday this week, to get a little more involvement with trying to get some stuff. She's already told me she plans to attend the training November 1st if that something comes up. Drew has put it on his schedule for the Western area. He said he's hoping that he's going to be able to make it, but if not, he's going to get somebody. But he does have it on his schedule. Because we have to get involved and get those people to understand it's still a partnership. And I got to tell you, I'm not coming in here to take down the post office. I'm just telling you we need to work together to save the post office. And a lot of the things that we've heard dealing with SPAC and dealing with representation, and I know a lot of people have reservations on SPAC and everything else, but the best way I equate SPAC is just like this. We all have cars and we drive them, but how many don't have any car insurance? And we got homes, apartments, and different, but how many don't have homeowners insurance? Do we really want it? Do we really want to spend that money? Nah, probably not. Do we wonder, man, I've been paying insurance for 10 years, I ain't filed a claim, but what did it do for me? But try one time to have to file a claim and don't have it. And that's kind of how SPAC is. You know, is it going to promise you to get you to save the post office? But it's a lot easier if I got a little money to get in the door than I don't have anything and I'm standing on the outside the door. And that's all it does. It just gives you a chance to be heard and get in the door. Because if you at least hear me, if you at least set up the meeting, if you at least have a meeting and you at least go to the function, I at least have an opportunity. You know, headquarters does a good job of, you know, Jim talked about it, Kelly, go to the local events. I know St. Louis, I think they went to some Clay had. He sent me something a couple of weeks ago, invited me to a breakfast. You know, and a lot of times, if you want to go to those things in your particular area, send something to Elliott and them at NAP's headquarters, they'll send you the $500 or $1,000 or $2,000 for the ticket to go to the event. You know, go to those. I know Jim goes to a lot of local stuff Graves sends out in town, because it's like Jim alluded to. If I only hear from you once a year, are your issues really that important to me? You know. But if you hear from me continually, but even if it's just the 50 of us in here, if once a month we all send a letter, we all made a call, man, we keep hearing from these 10, 12 people from Kansas City, we hear from these 12 people from St. Louis, we hear from these people from Iowa, we hear from these people from Nebraska, and they get tired of it. At some point they're going to say, look, I don't know what it is, if it's important, but at least go check it out, because I'm tired of hearing about it. And that's what you want to be. You come that squeaky wheel. So, you know, we hear about collect, process, deliver, scan, but I don't think any of us, whether you were retired and you were working or whether you're working now, comes to work and says, they pay me, I don't really care if the mail gets out or not. No, we come to move the mail. Now, there's obstacles in our way that we can't control, but all we can do is what we can do in the process of trying to deliver the mail. Brian talked a lot about membership. The biggest thing I will say is, I know in our area, we've hired probably 7, 8 of the new supervisors who are going through the new supervisor program. And what I would challenge you, the local presidents, is get with your HR person in your respective district and find out who's in the new supervisor program. Call them, go by their office, introduce yourself, because that's a good potential member for you to sign up. We're going to lose some people, maybe the mail flow controllers or some other people. Eventually, we may. But we may gain them on the other end somewhere else. And those are the people, even your mail flow controllers, that you may have to talk to try to get them involved and get them into something else. So make sure that you're dealing with that and trying to increase the membership, because financial stability and strength in numbers is a good thing. You know, So we want to continue NAFSA growing. We heard Steve talk about do it for the right thing, do the right thing in socks. I talked about it a little bit, but I'd like to sing a little bit more on the socks issue because socks is important. Sarbanes-Oxley is one of those things that gets us all in trouble, but it's still going back to documentation and doing the right thing, and don't take the shortcuts. If it takes you time, don't give your clerks your password, your combination, the keys to get the stock, because I really trust Craig, and I'm gonna be out of town for a couple of days, and Craig's a pretty good guy. He's not gonna take any of my stock. But Craig may accidentally make a mistake unintentionally. So don't trust the brother. I tell people like even me, I'm on the road a lot. When I come up here, I get them calls, I got excessive stock. You hear that from various people, I got excessive stock on the floor. Can they fire me for excessive stock on the floor? Probably not. Can they talk to me about it? Yeah. But by the time I get back to Kansas City and I put it back in the safe for the floor, what stock's over? You gotta do what you gotta do. So what I do a lot of times when I'm on the road traveling, I may issue extra stock and I put it in a compartment in the safe. The clerks have the key, so it's not all the way on the floor. But if you need it, it's there. I've already sent it to the floor. Now those aren't broken up, those blocks of 100. When I come back, hey, ship them back to me and I put them back in the safe. So make sure you're not, because Larry alluded to it a little bit, make sure you're not sharing that tax password, because the bottom line is, was 204B a code supervisor? If it's your code, it's on you. Because they didn't get your password without you giving it to them. So if it's got your log on, your password, you are the one who did it. And that's why even if you're working with a supervisor, and that's your buddy, your friend, you trust, when you walk away, hit that Control-Alt-Delete to lock it. Because you leave for a minute, oh, Jeff left, he ain't around. Whew, I need to give myself 2 hours of tea time. And thank you, Jeff, because Jeff don't even know he did. Is Jeff gonna really go look at my time and see it? For what? What are you looking at his co-worker's time for? So a lot of times those things are important. It's important even for us on automatic rings. I check mine, because a lot of times when I'm traveling, I fill out a leave slip. It's important for you to check that stuff and not ask their job. They should have put me in for leave. They didn't put me in. They paid me on auto ring. But the OIG is going to still come back and say, well, you got the money. You should have known you wasn't entitled to the money. So make sure you're looking at those to make sure somebody has put you in for the leave that you should have been scheduled for when you were off. Let's see, moving on here. I know we talked a little bit about the EO, and we had Marion had some questions and some concern. EO is a prevalent thing today. It's an opportunity for you to get your voice heard if you think something was done unfairly. But what I tell people personally, and this is me, and NAFSA's opinion, am I an attorney? I'm really not. But what's my job? To get you the best representation I can get you. And if I'm not the best, I should probably tell you, you need to hire an attorney. Now, can I train you or walk you through, give you some guidance to get you going in the right direction, tell you some things? I probably can. But me looking at all the legal jargon that goes with a case once it gets that far, I really don't have the expertise to get you there. So sometimes I don't want to put myself in harm's way and liability with a particular issue like that. So sometimes it's best that I can guide you to the right people, because Jeff, we've had some nice cases and we refer some people, or we know some people that have used some attorneys and been successful. And what we do is try to represent and tell those people, hey, that might be a person you need to talk to. But that's me giving you some good advice to make sure you're taken care of and you're well represented. And it's the same thing even if I'm representing somebody on a letter one. If I really don't have the expertise on that subject, and Jeff has it, I may need to call Jeff and say, hey, you're pretty good with your stock now. I got somebody who's got a financial shortage, can you help them out? So those are one of the things that we have to, I'm gonna try to move on quickly, because see, before I got up here, a lot of people did 5. You know, everybody was praying 5. So I took it that meant I got 5 minutes from there, 5 from there, 5 from there, 5 from there. I didn't know you meant 5 for total. But that's how we do it in the post office, don't we? We say it only takes 5 minutes. But that 5 minutes might have been 5 for this, 5 for this, 5 for that. So I'm trying to cover 5 minutes on each topic. Is that what I was supposed to do?
That's it.
Oh, okay. I thought I was supposed to do 5 minutes each topic. So, but moving along. But see, Larry talked about it, and I know we have to use what we got. A lot of us got stopped. Well, we got Corey, we got Larry. Why should we struggle with singing? Larry got a phone. He's a NAF rep, and he's a guy that's knowledgeable in singing. Use him, call him. That's what it's for. I mean, that way we can avoid, but if you got people out there who had a stock, they're going to be ordering the stock, they're going to be returning the stock, and they're going to be emphasizing. What was the biggest thing we emphasized? That we've always emphasized. Use the rate, but
Item
number. That's it. We all have them. What did the clerk say? 46 cents. Beep. Give me 46 cents. Just to them, it's easy. Then you looked up and they gave a Purple Heart. Oh, I gave a little stamp, but I just put a stamp 46 cents 100 times. We want to make sure that we hold employees, and that's when you go back, talk to them, hold them accountable, and then what? Get a discussion, then what? Move forward, corrective action. Why? You're going to do the work. Because if you don't talk to them and do the work, guess what you got to do now? Sit there and recount all the stamps and figure out, dang, I got this $460 shortage on the floor, but I really don't have a shortage because I just sold it over here in the wrong item number. And now you look bad on trying to fix it and justify it. So hold people accountable to deal with the stuff that they need to deal with. And the last thing that I wanted to just say is, I wanted to allude to Simon talked a little bit about just getting involved and taking the time to get paid, but a lot of the processes that are in place for us, we just have to follow the process. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. You know, I had a carrier once, and I tell people the story. He said, Craig, you're the only manager I had. The only job I ever had that you wouldn't let me do the job the way I wanted to, because I know what I'm doing. I've carried mail for 20 years. I'm good at what I'm doing, and you always harass me, bug me, tell me how to pick up the mail, tell me how to hold the mail, tell me how to carry the mail. And I said, well, what job did you have? What did you do? What else did you do? He said, I used to be a roofer. And they let me do whatever I want to do and how I want. I said, so when you took the shingles up on the roof, and you put your shingles this way on your side, excuse me, and I took and put mine that way on my side. Jeff put his this way on his side. Jim put his this way on his side. The roof didn't leak. No, we had to put them all on there the same way. And that's all I'm telling you. Carry the mail the same way. Somebody been carrying the mail, they've been casing it, they've been holding it, they've been putting it in, they've been pulling it down, they've been putting it in a satchel, and they put it in a box. Ain't nothing changed. Same thing for a supervisor. I count the mail, tell you how much mail you got, tell you what you're going to carry, what you're not going to carry. Ain't nothing changed. Manager, hey, I look at the station, look at the eyes, look at the budget. I tell you what we're doing, what we're not doing right. Ain't nothing changed. But unfortunately, somewhere we all look for what? Shortcuts. And them shortcuts is what gets us in trouble. So take the time, do the work, get paid for what you do. Stick together, and we won't bend, and that line won't get you. But I can tell you right now, If the alarm goes off and there's a fire drill, guess what? Everybody gonna run out there together. But what's it gonna happen? One person gonna probably get stepped on, fall down, and that's the one that gets left and burns up. But if you get up and stick with the herd, we all make it out. And our job is to make sure we all make it. So if you need me, you need Larry, your local presidents, my email's out there. A lot of times people call me and say, Craig, I don't know how to get in touch with you. Craig, I can't. You didn't give me a card, Craig. I don't. And I said, well, let me help you. It's pretty easy. Every postal supervisor you get, they even got a picture of me on there, and they got my address, my phone number, my cell number, my email. I know, but you don't look at that. Just go on that NAP.org, and it'll tell you, oh, there's that guy, Craig. His name and number's on there. So if you need me, call me. That's what I'm here for. I'm here for you. I'm not here for Craig. I'm not here for show, fame, title, but the training is coming. If you need something, you want to see something, get it to me. Ira asked the question, is it going to be as good as the last time? And I tell people, it's kind of like my pastor used to tell me when you come to church, it's as good as you make it when you participate. But if we all come, we all stick together, we all put a little something in it. You know how they used to do in the old days, they call them potlucks, we gonna have a dinner in the neighborhood and somebody bring the meat, somebody bring the potatoes, somebody bring the salad, somebody bring the drink, and we had a meal for everybody. That's what we want to train. Everybody bring a little something. Because the retirees got just as much to bring as those that are still working, and the new timers that come in 2008, they got just as much to tell us as the guy who came in 96, And then some of us that got 46 years back there, they got a whole lot to tell us.
Oh, he does.
And it's okay to listen to it. But if we come together and we stick together, we will survive. I know Larry's gonna have some 650 stuff. So if you got some questions, and Larry, I'll stand with him and try to help address those questions and issues. And then we'll install the offices for the particular individuals who've been elected to office. So thank you for your support. Oh, one last thing. I didn't really want to say it. I don't know if it's appropriate to say it, but we know with change, we talked about change, and I wrote it down. I was going to say it, and sometimes, I don't know. I was one of those kids. I was the baby of the family, the youngest. And sometimes I was always a little defiant. Mom said, don't do. And I always would figure it out. Don't to me means you must be telling me I need to do it. So if you don't want me to do it, don't tell me about it. When you're the youngest, Mama always say, okay, look, you're going to go do this, but don't tell your brothers and sisters because I don't want them to know. And I'm like, well, okay, but what you tell me for if you don't want me to say that? And with that, I will say this. I know we've seen literature and we have an unusual thing. If most of you don't know, Larry's the chairman of the board for NAP's headquarters. He's our chairman. Larry's doing a great job as the chairman. But this year, next year, when we go to the national, it's probably going to be one of the biggest changes in my time, and probably even a lot of your time, on the executive board. We're probably looking at, what would you say, a third
At least.
of the members on the board being replaced. Big change. You heard her talk about change. That's going to be significant change. Going to the first time the president and the vice president of the organization are going to be running against each other. Big change. But it's just like the seasons that come and go. You will endure the change. But the change will only be as smooth or as hard as we make it as members within the organization. We have quite a few. I know that there's at least 8 members on the board who are going to be resigning or retiring from the board. And we have one member on the board who's talked to me. He wants to come to the Central Region training. Ivan Butts out of the East Coast, who wants to move up and become one of the resident officers. We support Brian a lot of times, but Brian's got a tough decision. Is he state secretary treasurer As a state vice president, we probably all got an opinion, but we heard what opinions do for us, not much, you know. But he has to make that tough decision. But either way, it's going to be changed. So what we have to do is, as members, don't get caught up in the change. Don't get caught up in the politics of the change. Just understand there's going to be change. You know, Kansas City, this year, boy, we was, you know, looking at May and snow. You know, we looking up like, okay, what's going on? This is change. But guess what? We survived the change. So as the organization change and we move forward and the leadership comes out, let's try not to get caught up in the change. Just get caught up and understand that there's going to be some change. Whether it's good, bad, it's going to change. But all you can do is one thing. Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. That's half the battle. Well, it's really more than half. Because I can't help Jeff be a better Branch 36 president. He can't help me be a better Central Region vice president. But we can support each other to help each other be better. So, you know, with that, understand that there's going to be some change, some stuff coming out, but that's just life. You know, and does it make it the end of the world? Does it make it right? Does it make it wrong? No. But only time will tell and history will tell. Change may be the best for the post office and for the NAPS organization. So what we can do is just do what we can do, support each other and be there for each other so that the who don't catch us, the line. Have a good day.
Yeah, and then, hey guys, one more last chance, bid on the silent auction stuff. Giving you guys one last chance before we pull those tickets. How's that sound?
Whatever you say, I know better than you, right, Rachel?
You guys, $92.50, great for the couple hours that we did it, so thank you. $92.50 to the winner.
Okay, we're gonna do this drawing, we're gonna take a 5-minute break. Everybody, the newly elected or re-elected officers come up. We'll let Craig swear you in, and then we'll move on to the final portion of this. Good afternoon. Depending on how long we need to talk about some of this stuff, we'll see how that works out. 4:30. 4:30. Right there is a stack of my business cards. If you don't have them, these are new fancy embossed ones that Brian arranged for, so they're up here. Help yourselves. If you're not on my mailing list, my distribution list for all the mailings that I get out of headquarters, make sure you send me an email from the email source that you want to receive emails, not your government email address, and I'll address that. I'll add you to the list. For some reason, it seems like they want to fall off every now and then. So if you stop getting emails for more than a couple of weeks, probably fell off, send me another email. There are several new or relatively new representatives in here. What I will do, if you send me an email, ask for the 650 presentations. I've got a couple of them that show what we do with M650, what the process is, what the timelines are. One of them I had Brian make for me several years ago, called From the First Call. So from the first time you get a call from a member needing help, it walks you through from that moment on what you do. And of course, the first thing you do when you get a call like that is what? Ask if they're a member. Make sure we're not representing non-members. Smaller branches, that's not an issue, but larger branches, it can be a real issue. We talked a little bit about accountability. Craig talked about it. I had Mary up here, she didn't go as in-depth, and I gave her the specifics. There are 3 things that I want everybody to be very, very careful for. And they happen all the time. When you first try to take over a stock, if you don't know what's going on, the first thing you need to do is to count the stock, make sure it's accurate. There are people out there. We do it all the time as a matter of self-defense for ourselves. Put Post-it notes on these stacks of stamps. This has got 100, this has got 2,000, this has got whatever. Don't trust those Post-it notes. What somebody could well say to you is, you don't have to count that, it's got 200, just verify that all the Post-it notes match up. Post-it notes are not a count. Count independently. Don't ask what they got. Count what you got, put it on your audit, compare them afterwards. It's the only way you're gonna get an accurate. Don't trust the Post-it notes. The next thing they're gonna tell you is, when you get to the end of all this audit, you're taking over new stock, you find out it's not even, they'll say, oh, yeah, I know about that, don't worry about it, I'll fix that before I leave. You fix it before you take it on. You take on a balanced accountability. And the third thing is that people run into constant problems with when you have accountability. It happens a lot with the small post offices. It happens a lot within the cities. You lend stock to somebody else. Just make sure you get that back. We don't need to do a 17, that's too much trouble. Just take that, give me back something different. First of all, speaking from the scene perspective, you give away this 46-cent stamp, and bring back this 46-cent stamp, now you're gonna end up with balance inequities. But more often than not, the real problem that ends up is a personal one, where you don't get it back, or you don't get quite as much back, or you've lost track of that you gave away. What you end up with then is a shortage on your end, and you can't remember what happened because you don't have the paperwork. That's back into SOX compliance. SOX compliance, which is another topic I want to talk about, is nothing more than complying with our own rules. That's all SOX really boils down to. Anytime you lose stock from your accountability anywhere else, there better be a 17. Everybody got that? You got to. Just like the first two examples I gave, you don't want to insult somebody by saying, no, I don't really trust the Post-it note, I think I'll count it. That's kind of slapping their face. You don't want to offend them. Play the offend. Count it. It's coming out of your pocket. How much is it worth for you not to offend? Does anybody have any experiences, any problems they've dealt with accountability they'd like to share so that we don't all have to live with it?
Some of the problems that we have in the Gateway District with accountability is different stamps coming up. Say for instance, you have $2,000 of stamps, and you have $500 of Eagle stamps, but you're short on Eagle stamps, and you have a same amount of stamps of something different, and that's considered a violation. Even though the money's the same, you know the $2,000 still adds up to be the same. If you supposedly have $500 worth of Eagle stamps, and you have $500 worth of Susan B. Anthony stamps of the same price, that still is a violation. And so you are held accountable even though the money's the same, the $2,000 the same, because you have to backtrack to find out why you have those different stamps, even though the amounts are the same. And so when the post office comes after you for that shortage, even though the money's not short, you have to be able to identify why the stamp stock is not accurate. And so that's
And that is really, there's not very many things I would think that would cause that, but probably lending stamps is one of the reasons that would cause that. Selling things under the wrong number could be a cause for that,
but the individual is responsible
Yeah.
to identify it because they still look at it as a shortage.
And that's a SOX issue.
There is no money issue.
Yes.
Right.
you won't have any accountability, you won't have to pay any bills, but you can't get disciplined for it.
That is correct.
Okay, I think Andy was next.
When I went into the mat as a supervisor, they had a lot of those old bears and yearbooks from 1996 and all those accountable items. If they were accountable items, they were not saleable, but they didn't really have item numbers, so I couldn't return them to the SDC. I couldn't get rid of them, so I had to call the SDC and work with them on how to get rid of that accountability online, because I wasn't able to order the stamps that I needed
Right.
because it took up my entire accountability, but I wasn't able to sell them. So I just had to work with the SDC. They assigned a specific item number for those particular items so that I can send them back to get rid of it on my
For destruction, yes. And then that's something you need to look at. It's going to be hard if you or the people you're representing are brand new to accountability, because they won't really understand what that's all about until they get into it a little more. But do yourself a favor, and Seam will be doing that as we take over the replenishment. We'll be looking at those things that are in your stock and haven't moved or are obsolete, especially the obsolete items. We're monitoring that as we speak. So if they're obsolete items, once we get rolling and comfortable with the replenishment process, excess stock is going to be one of the things that we'll fix for you. Because they're in your stock somehow. They're in there as some number. We'll see what it is and it'll be fixed. So that's one of the things that'll step up. One.
Probably one of the main reasons that your inventory is the right amount of money, but off, it could be that you transferred the wrong item number.
That's
If
true.
that's the case, then what finance will tell you to do is just do a reconciliation. You can do that anytime and put it right back where it should be.
Well, the problem with the reconciliation, unlike with Ready Post, and Corey alluded to it yesterday, with your Ready Post stuff, you may get things through the My Post Office that tells you to do an audit on a certain item number. In Ready Post, you can do a single item number and move forward. With stamps, you have to do a complete
Right,
audit.
you'd have to do the complete.
So you wanna be careful. What I always did, and when I held stamp, I would, every day that I was gonna do any transactions out of my unit reserve, I'd run an inventory. And then I'd do whatever I did, and then I'd run an inventory at the end of the day, make sure they matched up. My transactions matched up the right way. It just made me feel comfortable. I just heard earlier, there's somebody right now that's having a problem with $16,000 shortage. And 3 months ago, he was relatively close. So how do you get off $16,000 in 3 months and not know it? Doesn't everybody here monitor their stock on a regular basis? I don't get it. But it happens, and it happens all the time. That's why this piece of advice, the people talking about it like this can help. Corey?
I ran into a problem a while back. Somebody took over the stock, but they never switched the safe combo. I mean, really, if you're told you're gonna be taking over because you're new or you're going into a new position, make sure, set it up with maintenance to be there the day you're taking it over. A lot of new people don't know that, but you not take over a stock and accept it for, $100,000, $400,000, $1 million, and then not change the combo. I mean, this is bad.
That's right.
Because guess what? I have a gambling addiction. I'm a great guy, but you don't even know it. If I know that, I can go in there and take a pad and whatever. I mean, it's just, you would never know. And obviously, that first time you got shorted, you didn't have a camera on it, so you have no idea what happened. It does happen. I'm not saying it happened where we did, but I mean, that's just foolish not to do that. Some people just don't even think about it. They're not trained, they don't know. They just know to count it over, now they got it. Don't have the same combo. We can represent you on that. That's an easy one. But don't wait until after you have a mistake. There's not much we can do.
Anybody else have any stories or pieces of advice that you found to be handy?
I asked for a complimentary on safe when there was stock, and maintenance never did. I just told them immediately they would. So I had a message, from like, everyone can change the safe, can change the combination. And Ron was out, and I was always seeing, he's counting over all the stock we've done, and keep the number on everything. Did everything right. So I couldn't get maintenance, it was an AO, small AO, it was a little 18, they wouldn't come out.
Did you send messages to your boss saying, I'm not gonna take accountability for this?
I just said, I'm not going to be responsible.
As long as you're covered by that, then that's at least a step in the right direction. It's gonna be difficult.
Field maintenance now, and they go on call, but they have to go to Omaha in the morning to get their workload for assignments, and then they're assigned out to whatever they need for hot.
Well, your best bet is,
Combination of mistake, was it not?
your best bet is what Corey said. The day that you transfer accountability, have somebody there. If they're not there, then you don't transfer accountability.
I mean, if they say in a couple weeks you're taking over next Wednesday, a lot of us don't know that, but we can watch out for our other members, or you're handed over to somebody, that's our responsibility too, but, go to your branch meetings, make sure you tell all these new people, if you take over this stock or you're doing this, that's one of the things that we need to share.
Larry, do they still have the security tape stickers out? I had that happen to me once, and maintenance couldn't come out for a couple of days. And I just put the security tape in 4 different areas on the safe door, so if someone had opened it, you would have seen that it was torn.
That last time I was associated with the stamp stock, they do have that available, but again, you have to know, you have to have that available ahead of time. Maybe that's something we all ought to have available to us if we've got stamp stock, just in case the transfer is necessary and things fall apart. It's good advice, Bob.
And also, when the combination is changed, our policy has been the receiving supervisor gets the combination. They're both there together, and the receiving person gets the combination.
Uh-huh.
That way, the person giving it up has no access to that.
That's right.
information.
Don't forget to put it in that envelope, I'm not sure what envelope it is, sir.
3977.
Yeah, it's a brown envelope that's round dated and signed off on, and it goes into the safe so that, and it's sealed as well with the round date. So, yeah, don't forget that with that, or your keys or whatever, that's all part of SOX compliance as well.
Out of curiosity, if Nathan is changing the combination, don't they know what the combination is?
No.
No.
They work on the other side. They generally, they pull the plate off the back side of the door, and you do it, they set it, then you have to unlock it 3 times before they'll walk away. Anybody else have anything to add? These are the kind of things that have real value to those of us who are in the field. Okay, let's talk about emergency placement. First of all, we've had a couple situations where someone's been put on emergency placement with a relatively new advocate, and we don't know what to do. So what's the first thing you do when somebody gets put on emergency placement? Anybody care to? First thing you do is you find out what the emergency is. Find out if in fact if it's an emergency. If it's an emergency, then we need to find out what it is and how long it's going to last. How long does an emergency normally last? 14 days. No matter what it is, that's how long an emergency lasts. However, we recently got, I forget now what the actual phrase we used when Charlie gave us that, but we have a MSPB decision that demonstrates that once you put somebody on 14-day suspension or any length of time suspension, you can't come back and discipline them. So that's one thing we've always felt, and we've never found anybody that would support it. Now in MSPB, we have a ruling. I think I sent it out. If not, I will send it out. I did. And basically what it says is that's double jeopardy. So if you've already punished me by taking my payout, you can't come back later, put me back on administrative leave, do the investigation, decide I'm going to do a removal or a letter of warning, but you can't do both. And that's a reason. So when you get into those situations, I'll find that letter again, I'll send it out so that you've got it. It's hard to read because you know how all legal decisions are. But back to the beginning, emergency placements, emergencies don't last that long. So, you know, they can do 1 or 2 days without us winning all the time. Matter of fact, we don't always win at all. But the first 1 or 2 days while they're determining what the emergency is, but once that first day or 2 is gone, it's really not an emergency in almost all cases. If it's violence or theft, probably you're gonna have a tough time getting it back. But aside from that, we need to actively move forward with agreements as soon as they're put on emergency suspension. Make them demonstrate what the emergency is. Because, and what they will always fall back on is disruption of postal operations. Well, let's make them work for it. Don't just let them walk away with it. What we'd like for you to do is to get the entire 14 days or whatever the time of the suspension back through the grievance process. And they will probably learn if we can make this MSPB ruling stand as a solid defense for us. But if not, if they win the first 2 days, then it's done. You can't do anything else according to this ruling, because that would be double jeopardy. So no matter what else they do, 1 or 2 days, sometimes that may be a better investment. What we find much of the time, and you guys can attest to it, what they'll do is put them off for 14 days, do the investigation, bring them in for their day in court, and say, okay, I think maybe you learned your lesson. If we just wipe it away right now, you lose 14 days, we'll make a letter warning, and you can go away and go on about your business. You've lost 14 days of pay. Is that legitimate? No, it's not. Rarely is the emergency 14 days long. So we want to fight that if we can, but it's up to your member. If they want to take the letter warning, lose 14 days pay, I guess we got to do it, but that's not what we want to do. Comments about emergency placement?
What if you're a veteran?
That's right, my bad.
All right.
What if you're a veteran? Could you get paid for that time off?
Now, the threshold for adverse action is 15 days. That's why it's 14 days long. It's not an adverse action until then. Always, as a veteran, a preference eligible veteran especially, you can always do an end run on the outside and have your congressional investigate, which is not something I necessarily recommend, or I'm not saying, I'm just not saying.
Also, the 14 days is not 2 weeks, it's actually 1 day less than 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's actually
Working
5
days.
working days, and it's actually 1 day less than 3 weeks of pay.
Okay. I've been in this situation twice this month where as a supervisor, I had to place a carrier on emergency placement, and I knew that it was double jeopardy, and I knew that we were doing it wrong. And I fought, and I fought, and I fought with LR, and I fought, and I fought with the DM. I couldn't get anywhere. And they told me, no, you have to do this. You have to keep them on emergency placement. I am directing you to do this. What can I do in that situation?
Follow instructions, but if it was all given to you over the phone, and we'll talk about that later, it's given to you over the phone, and they refuse to put it in writing, simply send them an email. It's my understanding that your instruction to me is put them on emergency placement.
And I did that.
And if you've done that, then you've done all you could. Unfortunately, we always, unless it's an actual illegal order, which is kind of a fine line to walk, but unless it's an actual emergency or an illegal order, you pretty much have to follow your instructions.
And that has become Central Plains'
Higher debt.
policy. And I got chewed out because I didn't give the Labor Department enough time to make that decision. And I was, it was hard for me to get my head wrapped around that concept. And I just missed the policy. It just came out in December, I think.
Central Plains used to have a policy that if you have an MVA, the carrier can't even, or the employee can't even drive back to the office. You have to bring a manual out to them and have them read a driver's instruction course on the street before they can drive back.
Or you can go out and bring your carrier back.
Yeah. But they couldn't drive a vehicle at all.
If it was ruled by safety as a at-fault or minimalized.
Which all are, virtually all are.
Well, there's those have been when we were there that day.
But now it's been extended to the point where now you get emergency suspension.
Emergency placement.
I just want to say, because on the last leadership meeting in Central Plains, that subject was brought up to Rick, and he said there is no blanket policy. Even though they're doing the exact same thing all over the district, there's no blanket policy. It says a case-by-case basis.
Well,
So
he issued a policy, a written policy, that the new, that in his, it was, you will make the contact, the supervisor will contact safety from the scene or at the investigation. The driver is to cease driving until safety has made a determination. And the cases where they were not preventable, like if the car is going through an intersection and so that the customer runs red light and says, that's not a preventable accident. But it's typically if our carrier is not goes through an open intersection and hits somebody or runs a stoplight, or those are the types of things, or make the turn and you fail to yield right away to somebody and you get struck. Those are preventable because you fail to yield right away. There's side in these cases like law enforcement. Those are cases where Rick's policy, and he put it out, and it was a very strong policy, it was strongly worded, that this is the policy and it will be this, and you will not like. The problem that we had with that was it became a case-by-case basis because you have transportation people out there that are getting those accidents, and how are we gonna get them, or rural route carriers who are out in their own vehicles, 50 miles out on a route, and how are we supposed to get, it's their car, we're telling them they can't drive their car, so it became, then he said it would be a case-by-case, investigation, you make contact. When safety makes the determination, then you can start the driver, but they'll have to take the EDC before. And so
Right.
Take it out to the street, one investigation, and we start reading the issues, parts of the EDC that like that accident.
Okay, but that again, it all boils down to, if that's what you're told to do, when you get back to the office, make sure you send, if the ruling was for you to do something you don't believe is correct, unless it's blatantly illegal, just make sure you send an email or your instruction here, what I did.
And really the cool thing about it is that the district is taking that stand they have to take the responsibility
Yes.
if they lose it in court or something. You just, this is what you want us to do, we'll do it fine.
Greg, you want to comment about emergency placement at all?
Well, the biggest thing, is, and Larry alluded to this, make sure they're a member and make sure it has all the parameters of Article 16.7, involved in it. But you want to let somebody know in contact, make sure your membership knows you contact the representative immediately so you can get it started to make sure, just because it's 14, if you can get in there and show that the justification for the placement is not necessary, you may can get that person back to work sooner, but understand, because you didn't have a placement, you may still have to deal with a letter of warning or something for whatever the action may have been. The key is to make sure you get that, and I know a lot of you have probably seen, I know Brian had a packet that he passed out. Fill out that form that they are requesting representation, so that you are covering yourself, that they have requested representation from you, and now move forward with trying to get the ball rolling to see if it's actually justification.
You don't have an actual form designating you as a representative? I've got one I can send out.
And it's on the naps.org website too, on the forms.
One of the things that we have to do as a gateway district, if you were verbally put on emergency placement, we give enough time to mail your letter, that's probably 2 mailing days. And if you don't have a letter within that particular period of time, we send a letter to the postal service asking for that documentation. Because we want to be identified, this is an official action. And there was some time when they would get caught up and they would forget to send that particular letter. They appreciate us reminding them to send that.
Yeah, I would. We appreciate that. Anybody else have any comments or experiences you want to mention about emergency placement? It's a real volatile situation, and we need to stay in front of that, because it's, like I say, no matter what it is, if you fail to get mail out the back door, 14 days of emergency there. Absolutely 14 days.
I'm just curious, I know it's always been around for a while under Article 17 or something like that. Why all of a sudden is there this huge push to us to start using it?
So it's not a huge push, it's been around forever.
I know it's been around forever, but
No, I mean-
there's a huge push to start using it on everything.
Well, I can't speak to that. Actually, termination is a big push right now. We're going to fire you no matter what happens. But the emergency placement is always just the first thing you can do, because any manager can do that. Put them off, period. Emergency placement claim, interruption of postal operations. It's an easy thing to do, and it sends a message. That's, I don't know, I don't see that it's new, but then again, I see all across the Macon area. It's not really new, it's been going on forever. And those of you that are, especially the big cities, can attest to the fact. First response is always emergency placement.
It's not a challengeable action. You can't read the fact that they did it. You can read the results, but you can't read. You said that you don't have authority to put it on emergency placement. You don't have authority to dispute that action. You just have authority to dispute the damage, the amount of time that you lost and things like that.
Losing pay creates an adverse action. Clint?
Seattle used some kind of, it's like a PIP that Western area has taken on. I wish I could remember the name of it, but in the executive meetings from what I understood, they've actually brought somebody in from Seattle to do this training. So some of this stuff that's being pushed right now that's coming out is actually from Seattle, and their accountability of holding EAS accountable. And again, I wish I could remember, I meant to go to that website to look at it, but.
The Portland plan? Portland plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was put on a Portland plan, and
Look what it did for you.
Oh, they tried to put you on a program.
Are you a success story?
yeah, long
Yes,
story
actually.
short, Kelly and I went down to see the IMPU about 10 times in about a month. It was like every other day I was calling her and picking her up to go down with me, and he gave me the Portland plan. So I thought I was, pretty much doing what he asked. So Kelly asked me 2 questions on the Portland plan.
Yeah.
He didn't even have a clue what he wanted me to do because he didn't even understand it. But yet he issued it to me. So needless to say, I never did anything. I just quit doing it.
Well, position that we have to take for the most part whenever they do improvement plans. NAPS does not endorse performance improvement plans. And if they bring you in, and don't confuse this, I made a mistake once of telling a new advocate, no, NAPS doesn't endorse performance, so they sent the person in alone. That's not what I want you to do. You should go in and sit with them and try to make sure we have an understanding. But when it comes to the end of the performance improvement plan and they say sign here, don't sign that as such, because when you sign it without any kind of a qualifier, then you're saying I endorse this. Sign it as instructed or under duress or whatever, so that they understand it was presented to you, but you're not endorsing their plan. Now that, I don't know that there was a signature spot for that, or did he just provide for you guidance?
No, I originally signed the original one, I think I put under duress or
Yeah.
something.
So just make sure you do that, because if you don't, if you just sign it, then that's what they're gonna show. You said you could do it, you said it right here, now we're gonna move forward.
But since then, I am now the best postmaster of AMP3.
Duh.
Yeah, put Megan.
Hey, Megan Brennan said something to him, and next thing you know, I'm an angel.
On those PIPs, the biggest problem is that you have to be able to achieve what they tell you that they want you to achieve, and you have to be able to make those meetings. And because they give you a specific instruction to override your duties, nothing that you are normally assigned to do is supposed to interfere with you achieving that PIP. And so the biggest problem we had to make sure the EAS made the meetings and that the issues were achievable, that they responded. If they're not achievable, then that's something that you have to refuse to accept. And the managers who actually give them the PIP, most of the time they can't make the meeting because they're busy. They said we're gonna make them every Friday, like it'll be at 10 o'clock every Friday. So you want that spelled out. And so the biggest problem is after 1 or 2 meetings, most of the time the managers can't make the PIP meeting. And so if they can't make it, that's not a problem because you want to see that they violated, but you don't want the EAS to violate. And so you want to make sure that they can achieve whatever is presented.
And I'm a little reluctant to say that where there's any sort of endorsement, and by setting qualifiers like that, it kind of implies some support for that. But you are correct. When they give you a PIP, it needs to be something you can achieve. It has to be measurable, and you should have a mentor that's guiding you down this path. So if they truly want to improve, it's a lot of work. They truly want to have you improve, but they just want to get a gotcha on you. So they just write it out, you sign it, and now I've got you.
Well, like I said, some of the PIPs that we've arrived at, they signed the PIP before we got there.
Yeah.
And we said, you got to fix your copy, you got to do this, these things like that. So once they know the NAPS is involved, now if you have a subsequent meeting, we want to make sure that if it's not achievable in the beginning, that you bring it up as an issue, you address that. Like you say, we're not trying to approve of it, but if for some reason they have agreed to it already, we want to give them what the requirements should be. And the making the meetings and achieving those goals are the two most important reasons why you would be a failure. And if you cannot be a failure, you can avoid being a failure, then usually the manager gets tired of making those meetings. And so they actually do away with it.
It's a lot like when you're trying to put a craft employee on restricted sick leave, or for that matter, a support supervisor. In order to be effective and to be able to move forward with that, you have a lot of work cut out for you, because you have to set up guidelines, it has to be reviewed, it has to be mentored. It's a lot of work.
In our district, and actually a number of districts around, a performance improvement plan really is supposed to be written, the actual technical stuff is supposed to be written by labor, because it's supposed to be articulated a certain way. And your manager slapping something together, you probably want to contact the district to find out if they actually will recognize that as a real performance improvement plan. The other thing is it's not the same as an individual development plan.
No, it's not.
And you will have your manager trying to act like your individual development plan is your PIP. They are not one and the same. All right, so you want to make sure that you clarify that when you meet with them. And if you're representing somebody, you want to make sure you clarify that when you're meeting with them.
So, just so I know, individual development plan is okay, PIP is not.
An individual development plan is something they're setting up for you to be developed, and it's not as a result of, not as a consequence of a bad action.
Okay. Yeah.
Craig, want to add anything?
No,
Bips or anything?
it's the same thing. Like I said, But Larry, I just don't think you should advocate PIPs, but you still want to be in there for the person who's called in to make sure, as Kelly kind of alluded to, that the documentation, paperwork, and what they're trying to propose is done correctly. But the IDP, as I alluded to, that's something that the post office is trying to include in your e-career for those who are looking for advancement in the postal service. So if you're somebody who's looking to still move up, get a new job, then now you want to get you an IDP plan and take advantage of the e-learning and take a lot of those courses that they're offering so that you can improve your own development as a...
The IDP is in many cases, it is something that your boss is going to tell you you need to work with him on, but you can inspire that yourself. Go to your boss and say, you know, I aspire to be a station manager. Why in the world do you want to do that? But I aspire to be a station manager. What do I need to do? I want to be the one you select this time. What are you going to look at? What do I need to do? And that's your individual development plan, so that later on, when he does or does not select you, you can say, hey, I did all this. What was wrong?
And when they sign on the bottom of how you're going to get that, that is their commitment to you, to your future success. So if they say, well, we're going to, I'm going to sponsor you taking a college class on communication, and that has to be supported by your boss. And if it doesn't happen, like when you go and meet with them periodically, hey, this hasn't happened yet. You know, you're not supporting my future here. They do have an obligation to make that commitment, whatever it is that's on there.
Craig?
Yes, Juan.
I know that we say that we don't support PIPs, but that doesn't mean that management can't issue one or get involved, right?
That is correct.
All right, so if we get into MSPB, the fact that NAPS doesn't recognize them doesn't mean that a judge is not going to look at that and say, well, they tried to work with him. You know, I mean, it still can become documentation on the employee.
On their part, you know it will be, yeah.
It behooves us to be a part of that, whether we like it or not.
But not to endorse it.
Yeah, not to
Right,
know,
I
but
mean,
that's
like,
why
of course-
Edmund was making the point of going in there and making sure whatever the parameters are outlined, that you are making sure that those parameters are being met. Because the most part, the biggest thing is, it's gonna require them to meet with you and discuss your progress and development every week, so to speak. If at some point they're not meeting that, see, I wanna still show up at 10 o'clock. Now Craig's in a meeting and he's not there, guess what? I want to be documenting that Craig was there at 10 and my boss had to go to a meeting or he had a telecon or whatever. That's not my fault. But I don't want to call down there and say, oh, we still having a meeting? Well, I don't think so. Then you don't show up. Now all of a sudden he said, well, I got out of my meeting at 9:55. I was waiting on you. You never showed up. So we have to do our due diligence still on those parameters on there because, as he alluded to, that becomes your focus. So nowadays you got some wait time and line issues. Well, hold according to this PIP, you need me working on these things. I couldn't deal with the wait time because these are things you grade me on now. But that's where you still got to have that communication back with whoever that person is that, hey, I wasn't able to work on the wait time and line and send you a response because you had me working on sick leave percentage and having my one-on-ones with all my employees. But you still got to be able to produce. I had 10 or 15 one-on-ones that morning.
Measurable and achievable.
Yes, sir.
Measure, even if you don't endorse it, which we don't, it needs to be made clear as we sit in with our member, measurable and achievable. You don't want them to have some pie in the sky, need you to do better on this category. And how do I know when I get better? Measurable. Measurable. There's numbered, how many times we talked about in the last 2 days. Measurable. You can measure everything now.
And really, like what Larry said, our bosses get lazy. They don't make the meetings. They don't sit and review the stuff with you. Unless they really have it out for you to be out of a job, which most of them don't have the time or energy for. Most of the time, they're the ones who fail their part in the whole entire system, which makes it invalid. So, most of the time.
The box lunches are out here. Once you guys got to get your lunch, just take 10 minute break, get your lunch, bring it back in here, have a working lunch. Everybody okay with that?
Sure.
Let's do that. We'll keep on moving as we get through this.
Hey guys, wait a minute.
Okay.
While you're eating your lunch, there's still items to bid out in the back from the hospitality rooms.
And I just want to let you guys know, on the silent auction, $740 was raised, and I'm gonna give that money to you, because otherwise I'm gonna go shopping.
Okay, but I've got an emergency over here.
Take care of your emergency. Yeah, see what the handicapped are paying. Well, thank you so much. I'm gonna head out. Let's put all those things in my car. Now let's take a look. Back up the garage. Well, he's gonna Yeah, do it. I have not had anything in it for a while. What a
Yeah, send it to me. Which one did you get?
I wish I'd known he had this stupid mayo on this roast beef.
Hey, you know that's supposed to be tomorrow.
That was good. That's huge. You guys are too sweet. Very good.
We were trying to figure out how many years.
I put it in 2002, so I'm on my, or no, my left.
We've never done that.
Well, the regular condition was actually my own
We were actually.
The ones they do here in town.
You'd had one shopping before you went home. Now, I could have done that. Without a problem.
Very nice. Far more than I ever even guessed. Hard to call, I think. Very. Well, I was pissed about it.
Wow, look at all this stuff.
Who did that?
Oh, no, probably, they probably send her.
Oh, what are you talking about? We about ready to start up here?
Yeah, you got 5 minutes.
Most of it is just gonna be you guys listening to me talk on. Okay, everybody can just listen kind of as we move along on this. I've had several issues where we have members that get with our applicants and then don't respond back. We ask for additional information, we ask for them to make decisions or take actions, and we don't know whether they're doing it or not. Any suggestions as to how we deal with members like that? No suggestions?
What's the question again?
We have, am I not coming through?
Yeah, you're coming through.
Okay. We have members that will get a hold of you saying, I've got this problem, whatever it may be. Let's say I got somebody is going to give me a letter warning based on attendance or whatever. So you get back to them and say, okay, tell me what it is that's going on, and they don't get back to you again. Or you file a grievance and they need more information. So you need information from our member and they don't get back.
Are you giving them specified reply dates in your request?
That's a good point. How do you do that? If you leave a voicemail, how do you know they got it? You got an email, how do you know they got it?
Document.
Certified letters is really the only thing we're going to be able to do with any consistency. If you run into a serious problem where they're not working with you, you have to do that. And then eventually, that way you can demonstrate that I tried to get back with you. You don't like what I'm doing, but I tried to get with you, so I made the decision on your behalf. That's really all we can do, but it's not an uncommon situation at all, especially when you're dealing with different tours of people. When you're dealing with plant people, sometimes the interaction is difficult. So you need to send letters. Send them to their home address. Don't send them to the work address. And make sure that their signature receipt is required. If we don't get their help, how can they expect us to do anything? It's really that simple. And it's not an overriding amount of instances like this, but it does happen all the time. So get in the habit. That's part of what your branch funds are all about.
I think that has happened in the AO areas with the smaller offices. Usually in the city, you don't have that problem, but in the AOs, they seem to be semi-reluctant to follow through with some of these.
They are, and that's normally the state branches that have those issues. Some of the big branches have associate offices, post offices that have got some issues like that. So that's really the only thing I have to offer unless somebody has anything else. But do the certified letters so that you can prove you tried to get them involved. Okay? OWCP, EEO, they're pretty much both the same thing. Do we help our members do that stuff? No. Both of those involve, you can do it on your own, but you can't do it with your NAPS cap on. Because there's too much involved, there's too many things that we're not experts on, nor do we have the ability to become experts within the time frames that we have to learn things. This is the kind of time frames that I cannot teach you OWCP unless that's all I do. And the same thing with EEO. We will give you everything that we can, like we did this time. It's not a very exciting topic, but it's something you need to know if you choose to take that path of helping people. You probably need to let them know right up front. I spoke to Brian about anything we do specifically with EEO. He told me that we've addressed this with Charlie Ciala, who is our disciplinary defense fund provider. And Charlie says, no, we do not get, there's too many legal ramifications to that. We do not get involved Brian is gonna see if he can come up with a disclaimer that he can put in the postal supervisor so that it's not so much falling upon us to tell our members, but it'll be right out there. Every time you get a postal supervisor, it's gonna be right there that says, we do not do EEOs. So hopefully the presentation that they did here gave some guidelines. There's still some packages up here. If you didn't get a package, there's still some information up here with regards to the EEO process. But it is, it's more of a courtesy thing than it is anything else. That is not an APS issue. Any more discussion on that?
Yeah.
Sure.
Actually, if you get really good at negotiation, it's really good to be involved with that because it eliminates a lot of people stuck with adverse action. Really filling down the adverse action process and any harm to your member. If you personally are willing to get involved, if you're good at negotiating with postmasters and managers.
Okay. Involuntary reassignments. They continue to happen. I know we have the potential for problems in Gateway because the area still has their own view of what an involuntary reassignment is. Craig is kind of waiting on a case that he can advance. And if you guys in St. Louis have any issues with involuntary reassignments that have been handled at the local level properly, you need to let me know because we still need to fix Gateway. You need to be aware as you're looking at your working life, sometimes your boss will change you. Maybe voluntarily or involuntarily, but you don't really object to it. It turns out it's something that works out for you, so you don't say anything. And then the next time they move it, you don't really say anything. You just kind of let it go. And before long, you've been moved 3 or 4 times. Your Form 50 says something long ago, and when we try to take a position for you that it's an involuntary reassignment because you want to go back to the last job you were at, it's not what your Form 50 says. It's way back here, and it's not anywhere near where you want to be. What I recommend is do your very best. I'm not sure what the process is, and maybe you guys can enlighten me. When you get moved, and it's okay with you that you got moved to this spot, get your Form 50 updated. Now, does anybody know for sure what the process is on that? Kelly?
You're ultimately the postmaster, but your manager has to initiate a form movement in HRSSC forms. So you go to HRSSC forms, the person's going from this position to this position, it was vacant, and you submit it in, and then it goes through the approval process, and then HRSSC changes it. Now understand, sometimes you have to do this more than once. Maybe up to 8 times, as a matter of fact. Excuse me, but you really need to stick with it because, like he was saying, I was listening to a case that occurred somewhere around here, and some individual wanted to go back, but his Form 50 was like from 5 years ago, 8 years ago, and of course he doesn't want that job any longer. So if you moved and you're moved to the spot you want, speak with your manager, I'd like to stay here, please get the paperwork completed so my Form 50 says on. You know what, that also helps NAPS when we're trying to get jobs filled, of knowing where people really are. You know, because that can be a real issue when we're trying to find out what's vacant, what's not vacant. Say, oh, no, those people, that office actually has all the management staff. Well, their Form 50 doesn't have them there, so we're showing the vacancies, you know, here instead of where they're actually at. So it really helps all the way around it. All the paperwork matches what's actually happening.
In every place that I've worked with in Western area, if it gets to the point where enough people are complaining about all the involuntary reassignments, and believe me, postmasters in large cities think they can do whatever they want, and they'll move you around. If it comes down to it, I can fix that. Everybody gets put back. Everybody. And that's going to upset the people that got the transfers they wanted. But that's what I'm saying. In order to protect yourself and your members, if they've moved, take the action. Protect yourself. Because we're going back to the last Form 50 that was changed, and if it doesn't say what you want it to say, that's where you're going if we have to push the issue. And we'll get there with the Great Lakes. I just need a case to get my teeth into, and we'll fix that, because we've been through that before. We have a little bit of an issue as defining, we haven't clarified it with Megan yet. We haven't had one that we've had to escalate that high, but the principle is still there. We will win. I just need a case that I can escalate. So keep that in mind.
I have a question.
As a station manager, I had 2 vacant jobs, and they posted my jobs, and I didn't get any say on who they filled them with. And they took those 2 people they filled them with, moved them someplace else, and gave me completely inexperienced supervisor in the 204B. What do I have as a manager? Say, hey, give me my people that are assigned my.
It's not your, well, it's not your fight to fight,
It's
but,
their fight.
yeah. And as long as those people are happy where they are, they're probably not gonna say anything. And as long as you've got 2 slots full, I don't honestly know what the right answer is. We can fight the battle and say, hey, this is, the thing is, you weren't a participant in the selection, so they're gone anyway, so they're gonna say, what difference does that make? I mean, now you're shopping around. I'm just saying what they're probably
Oh,
gonna
I
say.
know, I just wanted to know.
But no, that's not your battle or right. That's only the person that owns the job. More questions? Go ahead.
Did you get a lunch? Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll end up taking more home probably, so whatever's out there, they're ours. We're paid for them, so go ahead and help yourself. More questions about involuntary reassignments. They are happening all the time, and I know it's hard to stand up for yourselves, but if you don't do it, nobody will. We are not, as an organization, going to go out and see if everybody's where they belong and move them unless we get some kind of input from a member. Okay? Attendance is a very high focus point this fiscal year and probably will be very soon. I'm surprised I didn't hear it out of Simon while he was here, or very much about it. We did hear some of it from Steve. It costs a lot of money to have attendance issues, and they're focusing on EAS. But for the most part, if you handle your employees well, if you need coaching with that, the key, and it's been my experience, and I've been fairly successful with attendance, is just be consistent. Whatever your rule is, the last place that I worked as a station manager, our rule was 3 instances in a year. If you exceed 3 in a year, you start getting attention. And basically, you're probably going to have to go with who your lead manager is. They probably set, don't most of you have a policy like that? No? Nobody has a policy?
Most of them have a policy, most of the officers have a policy, but the problem is that, the parameters are specific, sometimes different. I'll give you back an example. Say if they said you can get 2 instances in 3 months, instead of using the 3 months, you should use 90 days or something to that effect. And the reason why is because people were trying to say October, November, December is 3 months. January, February, and March is another 3 months. So once they made it to December 31st, they felt the clock was ticking back over again. So if you use 90 days, now you're going 90 days from that last instance.
Yes.
And that'll cover you through a specific period, like a holiday period or Christmas period, something like that.
And the key, along what you're saying, is that you do that with everybody, every time. When you exceed the 2 in 90 days, you take an action. Whether it's a job discussion or whatever, you take an action. When you start being flexible, trying to help people out, you start setting precedents as being inequitable, and EEO is going to rear its head. You have to be consistent. The arguments that you hear from your especially belligerent employees is, it's my sick leave, it's a benefit, I'll use it any way I want. And you know how long they say that? Right until their job is on the line, then they come to work. So just go through the process. Just acknowledge it. Yep, it is, but I'm telling you, I can't accept that. We have a contract with you that you're going to put in 40 hours a week. You're not doing it. Move forward and be consistent. That's your best protection. Even if you're not consistent with anybody else, if you're consistent with all your employees and the other officers are doing their own, that's their problem. Be consistent within your own office. Anybody have any suggestions, comments about attendance control? It's a focus. It's going to keep being a focus. Okay. And a reminder, we talked a little bit about it when Steve Jewell was here, FMLA. Be very aware, you are personally liable if you started violating people's rights with FMLA. You personally are responsible. So make sure you involve the support people that you've got in place. By the way, Gigway, when I had Simon up here talking, I invited Rochelle, I invited her after January's meeting. She said, "Dad, be glad to be here, be there." And she was going to be here right up until the point where she called me just before I went on vacation and said, "Oh, I'm not going to make it." So that Simon was kind enough, because I wasn't gonna get two battling HR managers up here, so I wasn't even gonna invite Simon. Simon was nice enough to come at the last minute, so I'm glad that worked out. But I'm trying to get the mix. I know that it's hard for Western area people to come in and try to give Great Lakes area people information. Let's talk about, if you're given goals, for instance, carriers back by 1,700, or no overtime for your craft, any goals that are given to you by your managers that you can't possibly make. Everybody understand, I put it out a zillion times, but it's very easy to lose track of. You understand how you fix that? You contact your manager in a timely enough manner that they can respond and put the burden on them. You want all my carriers back by 1,700. You know early in the day, certainly by 2 o'clock, barring emergencies, that you're not going to be able to get that. But the earlier in the day you can, send a message to your boss. I am not going to get all my carriers back to 1,700. I have done this, this, and this. I'm not going to get it done. What do you want me to do? It's now their problem, not yours. Make sure you do it in an email. If you're giving mandates, if you're given mandates of any sort, and a common one is you're not going to work any overtime. Get the job done, make sure somebody is there open, somebody there closed, but I don't want any supervisor overtime. If it can't be done with the 2-hour lunch hour, if your job wasn't posted with a 2-hour lunch hour, you need to address that. But even if you do a 2-hour lunch hour, number one, leave the building. Don't stay there for the 2 hours during lunch. Get the heck out of there.
Don't answer the phone.
That's right. So get out of the office. But if you're still not going to make it in 8 hours, let your boss know early enough that this is not going to happen. Like Craig said earlier, what part of my job do you not want done? Here's what I'm not going to accomplish. What do you want me to leave for tomorrow? Let the burden be on them. Do it early enough so they can make a decision. As long as you demonstrate that your job is an 8-hour job, it's all you're going to have, an 8-hour job. And we can't carry it forward at headquarters demonstrating the workload of the supervisor has increased because of the transparent move to HRSSC, or the transparent move for safety out of the local office, out of the district office. All those transparent moves that only take 5 minutes now, there we are. Don't demonstrate your job is 8 hours, it's not 8 hours. If in fact you don't get a response somehow, the email alone is enough, you send it to them, but document on a 1261, send it to your boss, let him be the one who falsifies time. Don't you get caught falsifying time. We had one situation where an IMPU had told a supervisor that was OICing, your job is to make sure this operation is done, whatever it takes, and I do not want to see tea time. Well, that's okay when you're trying to impress the boss, but about 6 months later, you're pretty much fed up with it. The supervisor was recording his time all along and said, I'm fed up. I want paid for all my hours. Well, they have to pay you, but you didn't turn in all your hours. So now you're guilty of time fraud. So yeah, we'll pay you. That's your last check. See ya. So be very careful about that. Turn it in. If you work the hours, turn it in. Make sure your boss knows you're going to turn it in. Don't surprise him. Don't demonstrate 8-hour jobs or 10-hour jobs that are demonstrated as 8 hours.
Terry, when you said something about goals, it made me think about an email that I received last week telling me to put my goals in for the year and my mid-year accomplishments. Or you're gonna talk about PFP. I haven't put anything in yet, but I had another exceptional year so far.
Well, one of the reasons.
PFP and the goals and stuff, but we just got an email last week.
I really would rather that Brian would have brought that up, or Craig instead of me, but they're both gone. First of all, you need to do what you're instructed to do. We are now to the point in the middle of the year. What did Rick say, week 33 you're in? Well past the middle of the year. You need to be aware that at the end of the year, as you move toward those goals, even though there's almost certainly going to be no money, you still want to have the recognition for what your performance was. Make sure that you understand at the end of the year that if you're not getting what you want as a rating because of whatever reason, make sure that you are getting a prorated because you didn't have goals for the first 33 weeks. So now your improvement should be based on from this point forward.
And we still don't have goals.
I understand. Pardon me? And that's all I'm saying. No, you didn't have goals, you didn't have a target, you didn't know what you were working at, so make sure that you're not, I'm surprised that, well, I'm not gonna say I'm surprised because it happens every year, but have you not been given those goals to put in?
Nothing, middle of the year, now, nothing, no one's communicating.
Well, no, and I know there hasn't been anything, but I'm surprised because historically, they'll tell you, these are the goals you're going to put in. Yeah, well, and they're allowing you to set your own goals?
No, your accomplishment.
I'm gonna put in your accomplishment.
Or you're talking about your mid-year?
Yeah.
It's just for accomplishments. They're asking you to submit.
I came to work 40 hours.
Well, with regards to, but you did put in your goals at the first of the year? Didn't put in your goals? See, I did.
It was grayed out.
You're I'm an heckler.
Yeah, customer service, no goals.
Yeah, it wasn't open.
That was not open.
So before you can, so you're only allowed to put in accomplishments, right?
Right.
So list all your accomplishments.
In the narrative.
Well, then your accomplishments are not going to be as a comparison to a goal.
Right. This is gonna be what you get out.
Then I would suggest what each and every one of you does is pick out the goals that you would typically have picked and say, here's what it was, set up your own, here's what we were at the first of the year, here's what I've done to improve them, this is what I've done.
And I put everything in there that like shows a really great number.
Yeah, I
And
wouldn't.
that's it. Avoid all the rest of them.
Ignore the bad ones. If they're going to play the game, then play the game that they've dealt you.
Not my books.
Personnel, I have done excellent.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. If that's the only thing you did all year long was excellent on express mail, then that's all I put in.
There we go.
Corey?
I was just gonna say, yeah, I reached every goal they set.
But you didn't exceed them, though.
That was good too.
And my goal was doing
Whatever you've done well, that's what you put in. If you didn't do well on something, they don't need to know about it.
That's right. We'll put it in there.
Okay? Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I walked in a little bit later. But, you talk about the 1261 and supervisor using 1261, the influ or the manager. What about swiping the clock with the actual hours?
Well, ultimately, they do have the authority to tell you don't swipe the card. If you got a gold card or whatever, they will, if it conflicts with what their personal goals are, they'll tell you quit swiping that card. You are an exempt employee, you don't swipe a card.
So they should turn it in 1260.
I'm sorry?
They should turn it in 1260.
Well, 1260, 1261, whatever. But you are mandated, even if you're on automatic clock rings, you're mandated to sign off on a 1261 saying I was here for these hours on which I was scheduled. And if it's different from those hours, you should be marking in what it is and turning it in. Let them be the ones who falsifies the time.
But if you turn it in 1260, you're actually turning in a card for them telling them I work these hours, you need to enter tax.
Well, I'm not, all I've ever dealt with is a 1261, so what, tell me about the 1260.
It's just a little card.
It's just a little card instead of.
The daily card.
But I know I've used them for carriers.
You basically tell this management you have to put this in tax. The 1261, you do also live.
Yeah, 1261, the same thing.
Giving you your
1261 normally has all the supervisors that are on the ship.
But it doesn't tell you to cross this line out, add this line, and then your manager is expected to put it in that.
This,
Have anything to do with that?
well, and I don't know enough about it to be able to say whether the 12, but all I've ever done is the 1261 and I turn that into my boss. And you have them report it accurately what your time is.
But then is he obligated to put it in tax?
Well, maybe I need to find out about that.
1260, technically he's obligated to put it in tax. If you turn it in 1260, telling him, these are the hours I work back. Just swipe the clock.
Well, if in fact that's true, then I would say that if we find that to be true, then the 1260 is what you should be filling out.
1261 is the same thing, a non-transactor report, and that's it, not 1260 is a non-transactor.
Well, that's what I was thinking,
Yeah.
but there
Same
seems to be
exact,
some.
1261 is just a sheet, so you can turn it in weekly. You
Yeah.
put every day in weekly. Turn it in weekly.
Where do you go? The time clock won't be put in every day.
Okay. well, I'll find out for sure what the proper way of reporting, and I'll send that out on my distribution list so that everybody knows what it is. Okay? So any more discussion about pay for performance? Really, that rolls up most of the things I had from questions. Oh,
I
Tammy.
want to talk to you about the sick leave. Do you want to reiterate that so everybody's clear on it?
Remind me what we discussed.
About supervisors taking an hour sick leave?
Oh, since we became special exempt, we can only take sick leave in 8-hour blocks. If your boss tells you, no, you take an hour's worth of sick leave, no, that's personal leave. That's personal leave. And if you come to work and you're there for 10 minutes and you get sick, you go home on personal leave. You don't take 7 hours and 45 minutes of sick leave or 8 hours of sick leave. You take personal leave. Once you report, you are at work and the rest of the day is a sick leave.
You can't do an annual leave, right?
Pardon me?
You just can't do the annual leave.
Yes.
8 hour.
8-hour increments, that's all it is. It's the only opportunity you have, one.
I don't know what the answer is to this, but we had a supervisor whose doctor put her on only 4 hours a day. Over a period of time, I think 30, 60 days. So how do you calculate it? I mean, wouldn't that be an exemption of some kind? Does the
Possibly, but if she's a special exempt, the timekeeping system won't allow her to make less than,
so you can't put that in tax, don't take that anyway, right?
if you're special exempt, you only get 8-hour increments.
Is there an exception for FMLA cases? Because I've seen those happen, and the supervisor gets half a day to recoup or something. I think that that's to be correct.
There is an exception on that? Have you,
FMLA is the only way EAF, special exempt or exempt, can pay less than 8 hours for FMLA.
and how's that handled?
Probably code is with the 99.
It's,
There you go.
When you-
99 FMLA.
From now-
We'll make it that way.
from now on, when you enter into tax, anytime you put any type of leave, whether it's COP, sick leave, annual leave, you cannot put it in tax. You have to put it into ERMS, and then it rolls into tax. So you could actually put 4 hours of annual leave in, and it's gonna take it.
Yeah. Because you
It's not gonna pay. Just start in our ERMS.
Well, yeah, and I knew you had to put it in ERMS, but I didn't think it would take it as a special exempt in less than 8-hour increments without a special code.
It will only cut you if you hit the FMLA button.
I'll find out more about that.
Sure.
Larry,
Yeah.
you might bring up about nepotism. You know, we've,
Yep. And I will respond to your case as soon as we leave
well,
here.
and I'm understanding now that Jimmy Ball seems to be okay with a certain aspect of that. So, I mean, on the one hand, we got somebody saying, no, I don't even want him to interview. And then on the other hand, Jimmy Ball pops up and says, well, if he goes there, I think he'll be okay. So,
I think
no,
that nepotism is a situation that is not supported by certainly area, certainly headquarters. Rick Pivovar is outwardly against it. In all honesty, Naps is against it as well. And the reason why is it always turns out badly. Well, I won't say always, there's always the exception to the rule, but everything is fine and dandy until it's not. And then who's to blame? The post office knew that you two were together, and we allowed you to work together in spite of our nepotism policy. I can't make, and I wouldn't endorse anybody of your decisions to fight for somebody when there's nepotism involved. And unfortunately, it's not just marriage or blood. It also involves fiancés, boyfriend, girlfriend. It really digs in deep. And I don't know, who's Jimmy Ball now? I mean, what role does he play?
Labor relations.
Western
Where?
area.
He's at Western area?
Yeah, he's at Western area now.
Right now,
he's in Central Plains.
Yeah, that's what I thought. He's local, because I know for a fact the area would not endorse it. Simon will tell him just like
His
that.
job's actually Western area.
Yeah.
He might be on a detail.
He is detailed. I will, I mean, I don't really want to stir the pot. I don't want to get involved in those nepotism cases, but as I get emails saying I don't get an interview because I'm dating someone that I'm going to be supervising, even once removed, as in an MDO through a supervisor, I don't want to go hunting for those. But when I get emails about those, I tell them no, I'm not going to support you, and that comes from headquarters because it always, the Postal Service will take the hard line on that. If you have a relationship, it's not, you better hide it, because we're not going to endorse it. It's hard to defend, and no matter what, there's a case working right now where the person that's complaining because the opportunity to be promoted is not being given them, and the argument given is, my fiance works on the same shift, and that person needs special attention. I need to watch that person, make sure everything's going okay. You know what that looks like to everybody else?
Oh, my.
Nepotism. Even though it's not, even though it's the best intentions in the world, but I'm sorry, you're going to look like it's nepotism. So it's a bad plan. You need to think about moving to another tour. You need to think about moving to another facility. Nepotism is not a win situation.
They're currently on separate tours, and that's the problem. They want to be on the same
Yeah.
tour, and they're trying, and they ain't getting nowhere.
Yeah, and I'm
In the
not-
same building.
Yeah, and I can't support it, and neither will NAPS. And I will respond to that person when I get out of here, because I promised them that I would talk to Brian, and Brian absolutely supports my position, and so does Craig. He's been a part of the decision as well. It's just not gonna work out. And for us to push that situation through and then find out later that we're dealing with EEOs because of that, and the Postal Service will be a major portion of that, because they knew about it. It can be demonstrated now because of all this rigmarole we're raising. So we knew about it, and we let it happen, and now there's an EEO. Who's to fault there? It
But
won't
if they
happen.
promote him, I'll take his job. That doesn't bother me.
See, I've avoided using
Specifics.
he and she all along, and but at any rate, and I know that everybody thinks it works, it's gonna be okay. You know, I live with this person, it's gonna be okay. It is until it isn't. And then when it isn't, it gets real ugly. Dating people at work, gonna be a problem. Eventually, it's gonna be a problem. Somebody is not gonna like the way you treated them, and it's because you like that person better. So we just don't get involved with that. We don't fight that battle. Any other topics need to bring up before we move to make business? Say that again? Yeah, I wanted him to handle that pay for performance question, but he bailed on me. Unless anybody has anything specific, again, make sure you get a business card if you haven't had one. Make sure you send me an email if you want those Elm 650 PowerPoint presentations. I will send out, as soon as I find it again, that letter that says that emergency placement is the first level of discipline, and they can't discipline you a second time. Like I say, it's hard to read, but it does nonetheless say that.
Could you touch on using postal computers for personal business or NAPS
Especially
business?
since they just rolled out that.
Yeah, they just, if you haven't seen your email lately, but I think it happened Monday or Tuesday, so you probably have. They reaffirmed their position that you shouldn't be using it. Craig chased it down. Matter of fact, Craig, you could talk about that. Craig specifically cornered Simon on that, and so he knows all the ins and outs of that.
Yeah, Simon and I went back and forth, and actually Jimmy Ball, because Jimmy called me because I had it as a question for the telecon Kelly and I were on with the Central Plains. And the basic premise is if you are trying to figure out whether you should or shouldn't. The question you should ask yourself, is it postal or is it NAPS? Now, if I'm a NAPS rep and a supervisor comes to me and they have a letter of warning, and I just need to ask them a question in regard to representing them against the post office, I can send you a response. But if I'm now trying to contact Kelly as the rep and say, I got this case, I need some input, some insight on the case representing somebody else, I cannot contact Kelly on my postal computer. So you should be doing that on your home email. I used to tell people, and I even told a lot of people this at the Central Region, boss send you an email, give you an instruction, you would try to keep it, or you send them a response, and I would include and forward it to my home email address. You can't do that.
Not supposed to.
You're not supposed to. So if
Not
you
supposed to do what?
forward any messages from your postal computer to your home email address computer, any. So most people think it's I'm on postal computer, I logged into my Yahoo or my SBC account. No, it's also sending a message. They send out a news link that says, on the policy, or they send out something else, and I say, oh, I don't want to remember that. I would just forward it to myself. You can't do it. I used to, when I had 74 routes at a station, I used to forward my weekly schedule home so I could work on it at home, and I'd forward it back to work so I could print and post it. You can't do it. Even though it's postal work, you can't send it to your home email address. What they're saying is a security issue, firewall issue, so you should not send those. Now, I talked with Kevin a little bit because he was on there and he sent some messages to Simon, and he was trying to focus on that limited use of postal computers. And it's just like anything else though. You still have to get the permission of your boss to use it for limited use. A lot of you, I'm bored, I had a few times, I'm getting ready to travel to the MIG, NAPS convention or whatever, and I want to check the flights. Can't do it. So unless you're traveling for postal business, don't go on there and check out any websites. Most people think it was just something, solicit or something, but you can't go on to any of those other websites unless you have permission or authorization. Now, if you supervise and you're dealing with a carry-on issue and you need to go on the NALC or APWU's website, that's postal business. Because you're trying to find out some information to put something together to either deal with a grievance or issue, going on to the naps.org, or if you're going on NALC, or you're going on APW's websites to pull down some of the information, those are permitted. But I meant to bring that up when I was up. Yes, question on that.
MapQuest, because you have to go to a station or.
Yeah,
MapQuest, that's
maps.
Yeah, if that's postal related, like I used to go into Melissa data.com, KCMO, you go into Melissa, Rural Care, you can pull all your city routes in case you don't know, you can print a map out, it has all the routes in there for your whole route, tell you how many business deliveries, how many residential deliveries you got, but I'm putting that in their route book, that's postal related. Somebody at our meeting, I think it was Lisa, asked the question, customer sends you something, they're doing road construction, they send you an email and tell you, hey, this particular road's gonna be down a bridge down for a few months, and you respond to it, it's postal related. Customer got a complaint, it's ECC, and you gotta respond back to them via email because they're not at home, can't catch them on their work or cell phone, it's postal related. So the easiest way, is it postal related or is it NAPS related? If it's NAPS related, stay from it. They got a question.
I have a question. I read that letter. I guess maybe I need to go back and read it again, but the policy before was we weren't supposed to use log into our personal emails. In other words, AOL, Hotmail, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You weren't supposed to log into it. I thought that letter just came back now and said you're still not supposed to log into your personal emails.
And that's what I just said, you're not supposed to.
It said log into. You said you can't send emails
But if you read down in the bottom towards the end, it specifically says, and not to forward any emails to your home computer email. It's down, I think it's the next to last paragraph. Jim.
Yeah, because I think that was a lot of confusion from years ago and from up to current time, where we talk about documenting with your boss that you are working or your instructions were this. And a lot of times we had told people to blind copy their personal computer.
Yeah, we have.
They should not be doing that. They should probably be printing that and keeping a file at work.
Correct. And that is correct.
At home, take it home with you.
Yeah, take it home, in your car.
Yeah, take it home, don't leave it at the office, because if somebody gets it, it's actually in the post office, it's postal property.
The other kicker to that is even though you're blind copying that and you think nobody can see it,
They know.
they can downtown.
Yeah.
They see
IT,
everything
when you blind copy, IT has the ability to know
See
who
everything.
was blind copied.
The first box that comes up when you boot up your computer tells you there is no expectation of privacy.
And we probably, I know, you know, saying that Kelly and I and a few others in Mid-America, we specifically, you know, we hate to say it, we kind of tested the water because they were looking at our email. You know, so, you know, me being the nice guy I am, I came back from a convention and I sent this email to Kelly and them of how great the district manager was. Because I knew they were looking at my email. Let me put on this fluff and say, oh, she's doing such a great job. And man, that was informative, and she's knowledgeable, she's this and she's that, because I knew they were looking at my email. So don't also be foolish enough to think, I'm going to just send Jim a message and say, boy, this district manager sucks. And you think because you deleted it, as Larry Luke, they can still pull that up from that time. Just because you deleted it on your computer at the station, it's on the server. So a lot of people think, oh, I went in there, and then you hear people say, well, no, you got to go into the computer, you got to go all the way into the hard drive. No, it's still in there. They got it. You know, you see this on these Enron and all these other things where they can, everything that you do on that and delete it, they got it.
I had a situation where employees received discipline for playing around with people, and they were able to identify the hours and minutes that person was on which particular website, and all those different websites, how much was non-productive, they identified all that information.
It's all on the server.
Yeah, I had one that they, actually a clerk of mine, she sold real estate on the side, and they had every real estate website, but, and she used, and APW used the analogy, she was going in there on her lunch hour. It's still postal computer. Just because you're on lunch doesn't entitle you, well, I got an hour of lunch, I'm not on the clock, I can still go in here and check these for now. You still got to get that authorization. And I know Jeff, even when he invites the district manager to a local meeting, he still has to call the boss to get authorization to send out an email to everybody on the postal computer that the district manager's coming to the meeting. Because it's still apps related at that point. But they still have to give him authorization to send that out to everybody. So make sure that you adhere to that because
Mike Larry.
hey, hopefully you won't say that bad. Hey, but get a question on that.
No, not a question. We also got a gateway that you cannot solicit or sell anything on postal property. That includes Girl Scout movies.
That includes raffle tickets, that includes football, that includes Super Bowl pots, that includes your kids' candy and all that.
Right.
Does it happen? Yes. But you're not supposed to be soliciting any of those raffle tickets, fundraisers, food drive is the only one, and CFC. Those are the only two known things that you can solicit. Kelly,
That's another circumstance about, you know, it's okay until it's not okay with somebody. So just apply the rule across the board. I did want to make a comment about them hijacking your emails. You know, while the system is not ours and they can essentially check it out, technically for them to actually go into your account, there's supposed to be some sort of criminal activity or supposed criminal activity that you're using it for in order for somebody at the district to actually pull down your stuff. If you're not under investigation, technically they're not supposed to be pulling down your stuff. The IT person is not supposed to be in there fishing around, taking up meat and what's going on and stuff like that. That is not supposed to happen. If you report it to the OIG, they will deal with it. You know, and they have trigger points about going onto those other sites. It flags, it sends a flag to the inspection service people who actually are the monitors of that. And I guess there's a certain amount of time and a certain amount of activity that throws up the flag, and then at that point in time, now they're actually going to be looking in your computer.
It also flags Social Security number. You send a Social Security number as a flag. I don't care if it's going to your bank or whatever, you send it out, it's a flag.
Jeff, you had a question?
Well, I'd say also, believe me, they know, in the Mid-America District, they now tag some of us.
Oh, yeah, if you have.
And when they send an email, if we try to forward that email or whatever, we've had instances where they tried to forward an email home for a leadership meeting. Within 30 seconds after it was forwarded home, the person that forwarded it got a phone call. Want to know who that individual was they were sending that email to.
It's a special access, but like district managers, their secretaries, certain individuals can request access and it be approved. So you have to know that sometimes that happens. It'll be automatic that it's returned to them wherever you sent it with whatever comment.
So be careful when you're making a smart comment, because we got caught doing that too. Actually, Larry took that. So now we've gotten a little more clever. What we do is we copy it and paste it to our own email, then we send it around to everybody and we make jokes about it. But yeah, they got the flag in the Mid-America District.
Now what about receiving and when you receive things from somebody, getting jokes or somebody will send you something?
It's fine, you open it, you didn't know, but the problem is don't reply to it.
Right.
You know, or if somebody sends you something that's naturally related, hey, Craig, I got a question about this, your best response is, hey,
Call me.
shouldn't send this on my postal computer, give me a
Call
call.
me. I always tell them, I just put call me right on
Yeah,
there.
that way you are acknowledging that you're not trying to respond back. Wait, question, quick.
No, it's always my cell phone. Always my cell phone. No BlackBerry.
Basically, you can ask for that access where it gives you full access to everything, but they say you should. I've been told not to ask for that. I'm a CRC. So I deal with a lot of customer issues, I do a lot of media. Everything I do pretty much comes up in flags. This is denied, this is denied, this is denied. In the last 5 years, I've gotten 2 emails from the postal police records. And when I call and talk to them, basically they had no problem with what I was doing. The key is that if you get that full access, if you accidentally type in something and the warrant site comes up, you are going to be denied. And I was told that by IT. So I would recommend that you do not ever ask for that access.
Oh, I don't want the access.
You don't want it. It sounds great.
No, I don't want it.
So I've never asked for it.
Question?
Full access to, you don't get those flags. But like I say, I get flagged every day I go in. I get flagged because I look at media sites because of my job. If I'm dealing with a customer, I have to go out and look at sites.
Yeah, they have to
If
know
they're
where
ordering
I'm
for
at.
something, I go look at sites, and I get flagged all the time. And now with 5 years, I've gotten two phone calls or 2 emails. And after I talk to them, it's like what I do, and they go, oh, okay.
Jeff?
So do I have an issue since you have my work email and you send everything to my work email? I don't forward anything home.
Well, Craig's probably in a better position to answer, but from what he said, and common sense says you have no control over what I said.
Okay, because Karen Jones wanted to be added to your email.
She is.
So she's getting everything I'm getting.
But she is.
Well, I want to say everything.
She's not doing it for NAPS, to conduct NAPS business, though.
She's doing it as,
She's doing it as postal business. You're doing it to conduct NAPS business.
No wonder he's always in trouble.
That's the difference.
So I'm okay with
That's why I
proceeding.
brought it up, because I knew he would.
Yeah, I'd rather you didn't, but yeah, I would say, and if they say no,
Yeah,
do
they
something
can
about
tell
that.
them, I mean, they can.
You can send me an email message saying, quit sending me stuff, Larry, and if I don't, then what are you gonna do?
What about IMs? The new IM stuff, that's.
Yeah, yours does nothing but bounce on me anyway, though. It just keeps coming back.
What if, there's a picture of an eye that comes up at the bottom of the computer if you go on a certain website and it lets you know that somebody's watching you. Have you seen those?
Oh, not that I'm aware of.
It's a little eye, it's a little eye at the bottom of the computer.
I haven't been on those websites, so I wouldn't.
Mostly porn
You on the
sites.
internet,
Any website, or was it
I
like?
want to say internet, it's a little eye with a red dot in it.
It's mostly
Why
porn
would you put it on
sites.
everybody?
Well, have you seen it? Because I haven't noticed it on like the Google Maps website.
Look at it.
I'll check it out.
Where's the show? It's right.
I know it's what you're talking about too, that little.
In the middle, on the right, left,
Right, more close to the right.
more close to the right.
I have to watch that. I didn't know that.
The red light comes on and says smile for the camera.
Okay, anything else on the email stuff? I did find something else in my notes that I wanted to make sure everybody was aware of. As your membership is dealing with representatives for whatever problems they may have, the branch to whom they pay dues is the one that should be the first opportunity to represent. If there is a personal conflict, it would be up to the local branch to decide who the next advocate is. So for instance, just because you're a state branch doesn't mean you represent all of the subordinate local branches. State branch has members at large. Those are the ones that they represent, and the state branch president decides who amongst his advocates represents that person. The local branch has the first opportunity. That's where the dues go. They get the first opportunity to represent their members.
Member doesn't want the local branch to represent them.
If that's the case, then the local branch should either designate, ask the state branch if they would be willing to, or talk to me. Our members do not get to shop around. They don't get to say, I don't like Jeff, but I do like Jim, and that's all I want. It's understandable why they would like you, but that's not what they're allowed to do.
Problem is, they don't even call their local,
And that's why I'm saying something.
they
because
call
it's
us instead.
Yeah. And you need to say, no, you need to, this needs to go through your local branch first. And if it's not gonna work out, call me and I'll step in. But the dues go where the dues go. They need to have the opportunity to represent. And why they're objecting to it, I probably need to know that, because that's probably something I should fix.
Well, and sometimes it's not even that they don't, sometimes you can't contact them, and you don't get an answer back, and then you kind of go on, hey, I've only got this long to do this, and
Again, it's something I should know. If you can't get a hold of your leadership, then you need to have an understanding with the leadership. Okay. I don't know that I have anything else that's other than the convention issues. What everybody think about this? First of all, I want to thank Branch 10 and Branch 64. Outstanding. And Juan for Juan Macias and his crew for bringing up the second night's fair. Special recognition, I think, deserves to go to Tamara for coming up with that blanket. That has always been. I don't think air conditioning being too cold in here has been an issue this time, but it almost always is. So that's an excellent idea.
Make sure before everybody leaves today, to turn your heads.
Why?
Why?
We want plastic
Yes. We still have blankets back there?
We still have a few blankets left, there for $10. We're gonna go ahead and get this done real quick, if that's okay.
Okay.
Get that done?
Yep.
For the wine coolers, it looks
Bus trip is really good.
It looks like she got him again.
Alcohol.
Looks like pop. With the pop, $3, you pick what you want. Is that okay? You only one person bid? Is that on?
Mail it back to her.
I'll mail it back to
If
you.
somebody wants something, just give me $3 and I'll let you pick what you want from it.
Okay.
Then on the beer, Beverly gets to pick what she wants at the back.
It is gonna be a good bus trip.
And she got it for $6, so all the other bags would go for $6. Is everybody okay with that?
Fantastic.
Okay, so you guys go from there.
Okay. Any issues with the hotel, with the convention facilities, anything that I need to let them know? Okay. Quiet, please. Quiet, please.
Turkey wrap sandwiches.
Seems to me like yesterday's lunch, I thought was just excellent. Everybody okay with that? No, except for the salad, didn't Okay? Nothing else that we need to, or notes that we need to make for the next convention that maybe we need to carry forward to our planning session? Did we not do something here that needs to be done? Did we do something wrong here that needs to be corrected? We ran out of, go ahead, Rick.
When we had our president's meeting, I think, the meals were great. We kind of passed ourselves on the shoulder and Juan's cooking. But when we had our president's meeting, they wanted a meal instead of just snackies for the hospitality on a certain nights. I think we kind of went overboard. Nobody complained about it, but I think we kind of went overboard. Juan and I kind of thought, kind of a waste, quite a bit of waste of food. What does everybody consider, or what would you guys consider as a meal for either Thursday night hospitality and or Friday night hospitality? Do you want something, just a sandwich, or what do you guys consider a meal?
Do they really want a meal?
That was suggested at the president's meeting, and everybody wanted a meal.
You know what? The presidents may think they need a meal, but it proved out nobody really did.
That's why I brought it up.
So what's the alternative?
Because we wasted quite a
The
bit.
snacks.
We wasted quite a
Even
bit of food.
snacks.
I mean, that's why I wanted to bring it up. Juan and I had kind of talked about it quite a
No,
bit.
I mean, it's a good idea, but if it didn't go over well, why would we continue doing it?
I just want to bring it up either, to the meeting or not just, for the president's meeting when that's held in January. Just a topic.
Or if you do have it, I mean, not all the same people eat there one night or the other. Like you would have fixed your tacos, then you could have what was left over. But-
The following night.
I'm
Yeah,
just kind of for a suggestion. I mean,
We're
this
gonna
is
do
a topic.
There are simple things you can do, like we talked about sloppy joes, easy to do, if somebody wants them. I mean, there's some simple things.
Chicken wings.
Protein based,
Clint?
not just
Yeah, know
carbohydrate.
what to do.
We heard a discussion somewhere, some way about possibly having meat at a certain location. Is that something discussed at the meeting?
That's something that's not something we discussed at the meeting.
I thought we discussed,
I have to commit, I will commit within the next 30 days for our next location. So if we want to look that way, we need to talk, like right now is as good a time as any. As an example, what most people may be thinking is Branson is always a popular place to go. Do we want to do that every year?
Yeah.
Then Branson's not the answer. Do we want to do Santa Rosa?
I mean, Branson would have to be okay with really Iowa, Nebraska, because they're really the ones that have to drive.
Or Zona Rosa is a very centralized point with a lot of hotels and a lot of opportunities for Zona Rosa in Kansas City, right out by the airport, for people who walk by. If we want to do that, I know we're not really prepared to discuss that, but we can certainly discuss that right now. No more sneezing.
They're not listening, Mayor, I'm trying to get.
Kelly?
I thought we did bring this up in Branson.
We
I thought
discussed it.
something was brought up in Branson.
We discuss it virtually every year. whether we want a centralized point. Next year it's Kansas' turn. Normally I ask for a volunteer, but I know they've already arranged for it. So okay, it's Kansas' turn. And they've got a plan in place. They've given me a couple of choices so that I can get my convention planner to get bids. But does the body want it to be something different? And how do you suggest a simple majority vote?
Right.
A simple majority vote that says, no, let's go wherever you choose to go?
I have one little comment. If I was hosting it, and I'm just using Branson as an example, if I was hosting it and we have to put together a hospitality group and stuff like that and drag it clear back to the middle of Missouri, I think that's kind of a pain.
Okay.
We did it, one day, one did, but we don't.
We don't have a bus.
Well, no. The hospitality room, you go to the grocery store, and buy Branson when you get there.
And we went on one, it went down the way.
Wichita did it when they did the thing in Kansas City.
Yeah.
So are we making a decision to do it one spot only every year?
We have talked about it every year, and we've never really come to a conclusion. That's what we're talking about right now. Or we could just decide for next year. It doesn't have to be, and we can ponder it until next year's convention and say, at that point, make a vote whether it's going to be the same every year. Because I'll be honest with you, as we negotiate, if they know I'm coming back year after year, a lot of you have shared my grief with this convention.
Yeah.
And my convention planner, which is Sherry Davies from Conference Direct, they screwed up something here. That's why we had the mixer here for the first hour and a half. During her discussions to get that corrected and get some compensation for that, she exercised some arguments that really made them pay attention. And as a result, we got free ice. They tore up their presidential suite just so that we could have it the way we wanted it, because they think we're coming back. He talked to me yesterday afternoon and said, when are you going to be back? He says. I said, well, 4 years, as soon as I'll be back. And he was under a different impression. But I could see what he was doing. The accommodation that I got for the first couple of days here, when he thought I was coming back, they'd do anything. We got free ice for hospitality. We got all the stuff. We got our first break yesterday, which was, it's about a $900 expense. It was free yesterday. All this is because they want to make us happy. So if we go back to a convention site and they know we're coming back year after year, start paying a little better attention to us, a little better care for us. I'm just saying, if we like to travel around, which is a lot of what we like to do, we like to visit the different places, that's fine too. And it's not a huge compromise, but they know what we want, they know how to treat us. We'll get the same quality every time if we do that. Something to think about.
Well, we could, I mean, I know like they maybe had a little frown about like in 4 years, but that does mean something to a hotel that says, okay, on that year, we know that we can kind of coming back. If we want to decide on a location that works in each state.
And that's a thought too. That's a thought too. The issue that I have to express, and one of you will very likely be the victim of it. When I'm no longer here, I will have committed to you for this hotel.
Right.
Could be wrong.
Now, I don't really know what that means. Having the commitment is a good thing. You don't have to think about it anymore. But it's just something to think about. I'm committing for myself when I do it on a yearly basis. And it would be easy to say I'm committing for whatever as we do it year after year in the same place, in the same city. Those are all just things to consider. So as we move forward with this discussion, what do we want next year? Do we want to go ahead and do what choices have been given me in Kansas City? Does the body want to go to a specific place? There's no reason why we can't do that. It's just a matter of the host branch this time is going to be Kansas, and they're going to have to deal with the hospitality and registration and things like that, because that's the way we set this up. Kevin.
That's what Kansas do what Kansas does. And then the following year after that, it's back to Missouri. So then we can look at Branson again. They want to have Nebraska, they can do Branson.
Without a decision by you today or somebody calling for a vote, basically making a motion, that's what we'll do.
What choices do we have that are open to pick a spot, all here with Branson.
Well, and that's just because I'm always hearing about how good the Branson one was and the options for entertainment in Branson. But I don't know that that's not true of being in St. Louis. There's a lot of options in St. Louis. There's a lot of options in Kansas City.
Yeah, 3 locations are pretty popular.
So as I say, without someone making a motion, then we will proceed as we always have. We go by M-I-N-K, this happens to be K. Kansas tells me where to go. Somebody want to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion. I think that Kansas City is centrally located for everyone here, Nebraska, Iowa, and St. Louis. Because it's an 8-hour trip for St. Louis to come to Nebraska. In Kansas City, wherever the host is, we host it in Kansas City.
Okay, we have a motion to host it in Kansas City as on a continual basis. Do I have a second?
No.
Okay, we have a second. So let's have discussion on that. Anybody have any discussion? Sarah?
I think that if you have it in Kansas City, I mean, when you have it in like in Omaha, we have more people from Omaha that come. So that's why when you host it in your own state, you're likely to get more of your memberships to come than if it's in Kansas City, we may not be able to let. That may not be able to go.
So every 4 years, you have higher participation of that local base.
That was speaking in opposition. Anybody in favor of Kansas City?
It's been second.
No, it's been seconded. We're doing discussion. Trying to get a pro and con discussion.
Well, how far is Kansas City from Omaha?
2 hours.
Okay, how far is Kansas City from the,
5.5.
You know,
2.5.
and then 4 from St. Louis? Kansas City?
Actually, we just did this with our state meeting.
Okay, I have a pro and a con for Kansas City. Any further discussion?
Yeah.
Hearing no further discussion.
I personally,
I give up. Is that pro or con?
I don't want it in Kansas City every time. That's my.
Good, don't vote that way.
Don't go down.
Tim?
You know, I can kind of see you guys' point that it's nice because we're using our vacation to actually go do this. So it's kind of nice to go to a different place every time. You know, and I know it's hard for everybody to do that, but it is kind of nice for some of us that the only vacation we take is for these things. So that's what I'm looking at. It's great to have it in a centralized location, but then you're not getting to the other states and bringing in revenue from them to go to the baseball game or to go to the casinos, or if you go over to Missouri, there was stuff there, they have baseball games and stuff. So there's downsides to everything. We've got to look at the big picture, the pros and cons, and I don't know if it's not to stay, it's probably a good time to get them all done. But that's something for the next main convention, maybe we actually have that on our itinerary and look at it. Okay, guys, we need to look at all this and decide what we're
When
going
there's
to do.
more membership here.
Deb?
I'm a pro for Kansas City, and I'm thinking of the shrinking branches. You know, with your members are shrinking, your branches are shrinking, and from an economical standpoint, Kansas City would be feasible because people would not be out of as much money going to Kansas City, especially with the travel, since it's kind of people for each state to get to Kansas City. And as far as just say it's hours time to host it, they could still be the host, or that it's just that the spot would be Kansas City. But if you look at it from that standpoint, then it may be a good place for economic reasons.
Just a point of clarification, was your motion for next year to have it in Kansas City or permanently?
He said permanent.
All the time.
Permanently?
Yeah.
Permanently?
To have it in Kansas City permanently.
Okay. Veronica? Okay. Veronica?
I was just gonna say, human nature tends to, after so many years, want to do something different. That helps us find
Okay. Paul?
I just want to ask you a question here. I got here Thursday, I haven't been out of this hotel only once to check my vehicle, I'm ready to go home. How many of you decided to go on the ball game? How many of you ventured out of this building to go find something to do?
I did.
Other than eating.
I did.
Okay.
I'm with you. I did.
Roger?
How is the cost then? How is it shared? Was it shared or?
How is the cost?
I mean, if the branch has, if the branch in Missouri St. Louis has it in Kansas City, they pay the cost for everything, or how's it work?
The host branch hosts the hospitality room.
Just the hospitality?
Just the hospitality room, and then the registration covers usually the goodie bag, or at least a portion of it. We allocate a certain amount. In this case, we need $10 per registration for the goodie bags. There is no other cost that I'm aware of, and name tags and stuff for registration. Cindy and Gene and Carrie, you can probably tell us if there's other expenses.
You should break even then, you should not be.
Well, it's not a break even because, with the exception of the hospitality and the registration expenses, it's a break even.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
And whatever's not break even, I pay for.
I think that's the question.
One,
I'm just gonna make a suggestion that since we're going to Kansas City next year anyway, that
That's where Kansas has chosen.
Yes.
we're going there anyway, whether it's on the Kansas City side or the Missouri side, and we can bring this up at the next MINC with a whole lot more people here and a whole lot more conversation, because just like you say, the hospitality, if the body voted to stay in Kansas City, certainly the Kansas City branch wouldn't have to do the hospitality room every year. I mean, there's a lot of things that are involved here.
so you speak against the motion for now.
So,
Yes.
That's the way it's written right now, the way it's spoken right now.
Virginia? Question's been called for. All in favor of the question? All opposed? Oh.
Calling for the question.
All in favor of the question, raise your hand. Leave your hands up, please.
Well, what's the question? All in favor of having?
The question is to vote or to keep the discussion.
Oh.
I knew you missed
So all in favor of voting, 1, 2, okay, well, there's no doubt about that.
Thank you.
So the question has been called for. All in favor of the motion to go to Kansas City permanently, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no.
No.
Okay, motion fails. So we are back to where we started at this point. We are going to go to Kansas with the options that they've given me. Without further discussion, that'll be the plan for that.
Larry, 131 has to leave.
We can't leave, we're not done.
That's not 4:30 yet.
Actually, that is it. I appreciate it. Thank you again for the consideration, way more than I ever would have thought.
We need an adjournment.
We need a motion to adjourn. Move! All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Nay! It's not 4:30.
So I got blankets.
I'll be home before then.
Don't make me go there.
Legends is one, see, the problem is with prevention hotels, these are all I've done a lot of work now.
I think they do have some, they've added.
I know, that's because of race factors.
Yeah.
But I think it's all nice for prevention, housing studies. But we'll find out.
Yeah, might be right.
Like
Congratulations, Don!
Kelly. She's official now.
Yeah, I saw that.
Big care of me.
I know it's wrong with you.
Care of me.
I know it's a